Chapter 37 Sweep. The young man carrying a heavy hammer was more than 1.9 meters tall and tall. After jumping on the ring, he looked at Chen Chu in the distance and said excitedly, "Class 19, Li Meng. Class 3, Chen Chu." Chen Chu also reported his name. Li Meng reminded, "Brother, I practiced the advanced technique Hunyuan powerful hammer. If you feel that you can't hold on anymore, just give up as soon as possible, so as not to hurt you." As he spoke, Li Meng held the heavy hammer behind him with a handle that was 2 meters long and as thick as an arm. The hammer head was as big as a wash basin and had all obtuse angles on its surface. "Thank you for reminding." Chen Chu nodded solemnly. Not to mention advanced skills, the opponent's hammer alone was expected to weigh close to 100 kilograms. People who can use such heavy weapons are naturally not weak. With a clang, Chen Chu pulled out a 2-meter-long straight knife. The ultimate strength of the first level only gives him a basic advantage, but the outcome of the battle is not determined by everyone's strength, but also by the blessing of fighting consciousness and skills. Kill. The rich energy and blood in Li Meng's body exploded, and he rushed towards Chen Chu like a furious giant bear. When he swung the huge hammerhead, it made a piercing roar with astonishing power. Chen Chu took a deep breath and activated the dragon elephant skill in his body. In an instant, his muscles all over his body swelled. Exuding a violent aura, he advanced instead of retreating. I saw Chen Chu shooting out at a faster speed, attacking with attack, holding the knife in both hands and slashing with one blow. Clang. In midair, the moment the knife and hammer collided, sparks flew out, making a harsh impact, and then a powerful backlash force exploded, causing Chen Chu's mouth to hurt. Li Meng on the opposite side was not much better. Like Chen Chu, he was shocked by the force of the counterattack and took a step back. After one blow, the two seemed to be on par, but Li Meng, who was originally confident on the opposite side, became serious. Because heavy weapons already have a strength advantage, coupled with the inertia of the swing and the kinetic energy of his charge, it is enough to explode with an impact that far exceeds the limit. In this case, the opponent can actually be evenly matched with him with a knife, and his pure strength is already superior to him, but isn't this better? Li Meng's blood started to boil and he said excitedly, "What a powerful force, keep going." While he was talking about the movement of the skills in his body, an even more powerful force was transmitted to his arms. He swung the giant hammer weighing hundreds of kilograms, turned around and used his waist as the axis and struck out with another hammer. Because of the powerful inertia of this blow, it was not only more powerful but also faster. It sent out a piercing scream and an afterimage that instantly appeared in the sky above Chen Chu's head. But this time, Chen Chu didn't forcefully pick him up again, and saw his figure disappearing in a flash. Boom! The heavy hammer hit the ring with a force of more than 1,000 kilograms. The hard stone shattered instantly under the violent force, and countless small gravels splashed in all directions. Clang! Chen Chu appeared beside Li Meng and slashed with his sword, but he blocked it with the handle of his hammer. But immediately Li Meng's expression changed, because the moment he blocked the sword, Chen Chu used his backhand to drag it, and the sharp blade slid along the handle of the hammer towards his palm. Li Meng was frightened by the sudden change of attack and quickly let go, but then turned back to avoid the attack. Range of the straight knife, turned around and kicked the hammer in the middle of the handle. The handle of the hammer, which was loosened by the powerful force, swept across the hammer head with the hammer head as the center. He wanted to force Chen Chu back and regain the right to attack, but Chen Chu directly cut it down with a domineering sword. When sparks flew everywhere, and the corners of Chen Chu's mouth rose slightly. "You lose." Bang! As the ground shook, Chen Chu stepped forward and rushed. The 2-meter-long straight knife in his hand pierced the air. The sword flashed and appeared on Li Meng's chest 3 meters away. Looking at the tip of the knife that suddenly stopped on his chest, Li Meng still didn't react. Chen Chu slowly sheathed the knife and said with a smile, "Cheng Rang. It's amazing." Li Meng exhaled slowly, then readily admitted defeat, picked up the hammer and jumped off the ring. In arena number 49, student Chen Chu won. Do you need to rest? What? This time, Chen Chu did not choose to compete continuously. He put away his sword and stood up. While calming down the boiling blood in his body, he reviewed the gains from the battle just now. Li Meng is actually very strong, and his frontal strength is even as strong as him when wielding heavy weapons. It's just a pity that in the first game, they encountered Chen Chu, who had an equal burst of power, faster reaction, and stronger overall strength. And as soon as he made his move, Chen Chu interrupted his rhythm with his powerful force. Otherwise, once he swings the heavy hammer and uses inertia and hammering skills to gain momentum, even if Chen Chu wants to defeat him, It will take 10 moves. After a short rest, Chen Chu started the third battle. The opponent was a young man wearing glasses. His strength was directly chopped off by Chen Chu's domineering sword. He was so frightened that he quickly shouted to admit defeat. Then the fourth battle began. This time the opponent was a cute girl with a beautiful hair ornament on her head, and her weapon was a 1.5-meter long rapier. Then, with just 3 lightning-fast sword strikes, this cute girl was slashed to tears by the violent Chen Chu. The girl whimpered, "No more fighting," and threw the sword away before jumping off the ring. Chen Chu was a little embarrassed when he saw this. Did he strike too hard? Then in the fifth game, the opponent was probably a student who had just established his foundation a month ago. As soon as he stepped into the first level of the Heavenly Gate, Chen Chu directly slashed both people and weapons several meters away. Such a domineering strike frightened the boy into quickly admitting defeat. It wasn't until the sixth game that the opponent became a little stronger. This time she was still a girl. She looked arrogant when she came on stage, as if everyone owed her tens of thousands of dollars. She used the same weapons as Chen Chu. The girl didn't talk nonsense. It seemed that Chen Chu didn't deserve to know her name. Her figure flashed and appeared next to Chen Chu with an afterimage. So fast. This speed has exceeded the scope of the first level, and Chen Chu was slightly shocked. Clang. Chen Chu's horizontal sword blocked the sword on the left, and sparks flew out the moment the two swords intersected. But the girl's face immediately changed slightly, and she was repelled by the violent force coming from the knife. At the first level of heaven, the characteristic of Zenwu Kung Fu is to focus on strength, then the strength will be doubled, violent and powerful, the agility and speed will be average, and the route of winning with strength will be followed. When the skill's characteristics focus on agility and movement, the burst of speed is much higher than that of the same level, and the movement is agile, but the strength is not as good as that of strength practitioners. As for someone like Lin Shui who specializes in swordsmanship, his sword moves are sharp and powerful and his moves are exquisite, but his strength and speed are much mediocre. Overall, each has its own merits. For example, the girl in front of me practices agility and movement skills, and her speed is astonishingly fast. The moment she retreated, her figure drew a strange angle, appeared on Chen Chu's right side like a ghost, and slashed at his lower body again. Clang, clang, clang. Chen Chu remained as still as a mountain, his eyes sharp, and he accurately blocked the surrounding afterimages and strange sword lights. Every time they fought, sparks flew everywhere. After just over 10 moves, the girl's figure suddenly exploded and appeared 5 meters away. The arm holding the long knife kept shaking, and the tiger's mouth was bleeding. Although her speed is very fast and her movement is like a ghost, her strength is far behind Chen Chu. Every time the two swords crossed, she would feel an overbearing force coming towards her. Her arms were numb and her palms ached due to the shock. It only took 10 swords to get injured. Chen Chu took out a breath and smiled lightly. Cheng rang. Snort. The girl looked deeply at Chen Chu, snorted, turned around and jumped off the ring. On the 49th stage, student Chen Chu won. You have completed the number of matches. Please get off the stage and rest and wait for the result. Knowing that he would definitely advance, Chen Chu put a smile on his face, sheathed his sword and jumped off the ring. Chen Chu defeated 6 opponents in a row, all of them cleanly. Chen Chu's performance attracted the attention of some teachers on the main stage. Pang Long even let out a light sigh. He remembered that this student named Chen Chu seemed to have built up his foundation within half a month, practicing the dragon elephant technique with the main burst of power, and the relatively special sword technique Xin Yan Ming Dao. But the combat power he showed today seems to be a bit strong. Even the 2 geniuses who have practiced advanced techniques are no match for him. Chapter 38 Fighting the Weak with the Strong. Chen Chu was not surprised that he could easily win. Although his dragon elephant skill has only reached the middle stage of the first level, his basic attributes are at least twice as strong as those of his opponents. It would be a problem if he lost them all. There is no such thing as the weak defeating the strong in this world, only the strong defeating the weak. Winning means you are stronger than your opponent. Even if there are some rumored geniuses in the cultivation world who can fight across realms, it only means that their power explodes in an instant, or they possess secret techniques that are stronger than their opponents. There is always a certain advantage that can narrow the gap between the 2 realms, and then fight across realms. Chen Chu jumped off the ring and started watching other games with a long knife on his back. The 50 arenas are surrounded by students carrying weapons, names and information are constantly beating on the big screen above their heads, and many people in the distant audience are cheering for their classmates. Boom! Under the violent wave of air, a boy carrying a stick or pillar smashed his opponent off the ring. The figure of almost 2 meters tall was more powerful than Li Meng, exuding a terrifying aura. What a terrifying power! Looking at the iron pillar that was more than 3 meters long, as thick as a thigh, and weighed at least hundreds of kilograms even if it was made of light alloy, Chen Chu couldn't help but twitch from the corners of his eyes. Who is this person? It's so fierce. Chen Chu was shocked. To actually use such a heavy weapon, the arm strength must be at least over 1,000 kilograms. A first-level cultivator simply does not have such strong strength. Could it be that this person is born with divine power? Chen Chu originally thought that his basic attributes exceeded the limit of the first level, and he should be among the second and third among the freshmen. He didn't expect that there would be such a strong guy. He was a complete pervert. After taking a deep look at the boy who looked like a giant, Chen Chu walked to the next stage. At this time, not only Chen Chu, but also the students in the audience were excited to see the figures carrying heavy weapons crisscrossing each other as fast as the wind. Heavy weapons collided, and there was a buzzing buzz over the entire venue. But compared to the freshmen who were watching attentively, the teachers on the main stage didn't pay much attention. For them, these freshman competitions were actually nothing to watch. The speed is too slow and the strength is too weak. It doesn't even have real power, let alone the real power that can carry the power of heaven and earth. Watching the surveillance video casually, you will occasionally see a teacher speak up, calling for a stop in a certain arena where the real fire can't be contained and declaring the victory of the superior team. At this time, a teacher asked doubtfully, "Old Lin, why do you think the higher authorities allocated so many resources this time to allow all first-class universities to vigorously cultivate this new class of students?" Lin Ziying shook his head slightly. "Not this time, but every year in the future, freshmen from the 3 major federation countries will receive more resources than in the past." Pang Long said in surprise, "What? The training resources have increased every year, and they are within the scope of the 3 major countries of the Federation. Could it be that there was a great victory on the battlefield over there?" Other teachers also showed excitement on their faces, and they all thought it was because of this. Just when these teachers looked excited, Lin Ziying looked a little solemn and shook his head slightly. "No, it was the 5th Legion that opened up several new resource points. As for the war situation over there, it's still tense. The 3rd, 9th, and 15th Legions are under great pressure, and a king-level battle or above will break out every month. Under such circumstances, the casualties of various armies have been increasing in the past 2 years, and more fresh blood is needed. That's why the higher-ups have allocated additional resources to expand our training targets, including those new students who have built their foundation within 2 months." Lin Ziying's words made these teachers' expressions freeze. So the situation is getting more serious. After a long time, Pang Long slowly exhaled, "But even so, there is no need to waste resources to cultivate those new students who cannot build foundations in a month, right? If these resources are allocated to 2nd and 3rd year students, their growth rate may be faster." Lin Ziying shook his head. "You can't look at it that way. The growth of those 2nd and 3rd grade students has been fixed. Even if more resources are given to them, the effect will not be great. On the contrary, these new students, although the initial talents of those who broke through the foundation building a month later are indeed very poor, their cultivation speed is hopelessly slow. But with such a large base of the 3 major countries, if there is another example, like King Xuanwu, it will be a big profit for us as a human race. I think this is also the meaning above. Spend resources to expand the base of human cultivation, hoping that a few more monsters will appear and enhance the foundation of the human race." Pang Long and others nodded thoughtfully. Chen Kuyu, who finished the match early, walked around the stages and saw Lin Shui defeating his opponent cleanly, and both sides nodded. "I also saw Lu Heidao being defeated by a very strong girl and resigned in frustration." Suddenly, Chen Chu stopped and his eyes fell on the number 9 ring in front, where a beautiful girl almost exactly like Lin Shui stood holding a sword. Unlike Lin Shui, this girl's hair was black with blue in it. She always had a smile on her face, and her eyes were gentle, giving people a feeling of warmth like water. Her opponent was also a girl, and her weapon was a long and narrow samurai sword. After nodding, the 2 sides took action instantly, turning into 2 phantoms and colliding together. Clang, clang, clang. The light of the sword was sharp, the shadow of the sword was like the wind, and the 2 people's bodies were spinning, creating afterimages. They were both very powerful. Moreover, both women majored in swordsmanship and swordsmanship. One sword light was as fast as lightning, and the other sword light was like water, filling the space, and the audience around them couldn't take their eyes away. Clang. Suddenly a dazzling spark exploded, and the girl using the katana groaned, and her figure appeared on the edge of the ring, her face turned pale. "I lost," she said unwillingly, and the katana girl jumped off the ring. On the 9th stage, student Lin, you won. You have completed the number of matches. Please get off the stage and rest and wait for the result. The girl named Lin Yu put away her sword and stood up. She nodded slightly to the surrounding classmates watching the battle, very politely, and then jumped off the stage and left. Is this the squad leader's sister? She's a bit strong. Chen Chu thought thoughtfully. Just now, the movement speed of the two of them reached the limit of the first level. Even ordinary people could not keep up with the naked eye, no less than the arrogant girl that Chen Chu defeated in the end. At this speed, ordinary people can no longer see their movements, let alone the kinetic energy blessing and sharp swordsmanship brought by the speed. This kind of strength was at the forefront among the freshmen present, but Chen Chu could see that Lin Yu defeated the girl with ease. If it hadn't been for this ranking competition, I wouldn't have known that there were so many masters among the freshmen. Chen Chu shook his head and sighed, and the slight advantage in his heart due to the sudden increase in physical fitness disappeared. This slight advantage is not enough for him to sweep away his peers. He has to work harder to practice swallowing. There were more than 500 contestants, 50 arenas, each took 10 minutes, and the first round did not end until noon when everyone had played 6 games. Everyone dispersed to eat. Chapter 39. Good luck. Noon, cafeteria. As soon as Chen Chu sat down, Xia Yui followed him with a dinner plate and said with a grimace, "Chu, I have no hope of advancing this time." "What's going on?" Chen Chu was a little surprised. Even if he couldn't enter the top 50 with his strength, he wouldn't be able to pass the first round, right? At this time, Lin Shui, Lu Heidao, Li Wenwen and Luo Fei also came over. Luo Fei and Lin Shui sat opposite them, while Li Wenwen and Lu Heidao sat at the table next to them. Lin Shui shook his head. Xia Yui's luck was too bad. His first opponent was in Fuking, and he surrendered immediately. Xia Yui said unconvinced, "That's because she has the advantage in realm. I'm not stupid. I will definitely choose to surrender when facing a master from the second heaven." As he said that, as if he was afraid that he would be looked down upon, Xia Yui shrugged, "Don't say it's me. Even if you meet her, monitor, you will be the same. There is no hope at all. Or in this ranking competition, no one can shake her number 1 position. So strong." Chen Chu was a little surprised. Xia Yui said matter-of-factly, "Of course, when we break through to the second heaven, it will be the same as our foundation building. There will be a significant improvement, and the arm strength will increase by at least 100 kilograms. In addition, a master in the second heaven realm has true power, especially when she practices advanced skills. With the blessing of true power, the explosion rate increases by at least 3 times or even 4 times. In this situation of being crushed in all aspects, who is her opponent?" Chen Chu nodded silently, expecting a basic strength of 400 kilograms, plus at least 3 times the true power blessing, as well as faster speed and kinetic energy increase. She can explode at least 3,000 kilograms with a casual blow, which is more than 3 tons of impact force. There is really no one who can match her with this kind of strength. Even the guy carrying the iron pillar to fight might not be able to do it. Because this is not a competition of strength. As the most evil genius in Nanshan martial arts, and Fuking's true combat power should be very terrifying. Chen Chu immediately wondered, "That's not right. If you just lose 1 game, you should have no problem advancing to the first round. There are more than 500 people, and when each person plays 6 games, not many can maintain a complete victory, so it is no problem to lose 1 game and enter the top 200. The problem is I lost 3 games. Speaking of this, Xia Yui said bitterly, "In the second game, I met a pervert who carried a pillar. His strength was terrifying, and he was knocked off the ring by 3 pillars. Although I won 3 games in a row, in the 6th game I met a guy named Li Meng who had practiced the Hunyuan power hammer. His opponent's technique just happened to restrain me. I miscalculated and was attacked by the opponent's hammer technique. Even though I had a strong defense, I was knocked back by him 20 times in a row and fell off the ring. You are indeed unlucky." Chen Chu didn't know what to say about this. After finishing talking about himself, Xia Yui asked casually, "By the way, Ah Chu, how are you? How many games have you lost?" Cough. Chen Chu coughed dryly and said modestly, "I'm okay. I'm lucky. The few opponents I encountered are not very strong, so I should have hope of advancing." "You must be very lucky." Hearing this, Xia Yui was filled with envy. However, he didn't think much about it, thinking that Chen Chu was really lucky. The opponents he encountered were all ordinary players who had built their foundation within half a month or within a month. Including Lin Shui and Lu Haidao, they also thought the same. But as soon as Chen Chu finished speaking, Luo Fei opposite him couldn't help but smile and looked at him with strange eyes. Lin Shui and others were all competing at that time, and the venue was too big and there were many people around, so I didn't know who Chen Chu's opponents were. But she kept paying attention to Chen Chu in the audience. So we know that he was not lucky at all, but used his absolute strength to sweep all his opponents, including Li Meng who defeated Xia Yui. She was shocked for a long time. After all, Chen Chu couldn't even beat Xia Yui a few days ago. Chen Chu looked at Lin Shui and asked curiously, "By the way, where are you, monitor?" "I'm okay, I haven't met any strong opponents," Lin Shui said in a calm tone. Li Wenwen, a short-haired girl at another table, raised her hand and said with a smile, "I only lost 2 games. I should have a chance to advance. I am better than Xia Yui and Hai Tao. I lost 3 times." Lu Haidao was also a little depressed. He had bad luck and met 3 geniuses who practiced advanced skills. Otherwise, he should have no problem advancing to the second round. After lunch, everyone returned to the sports center. At this time, there was still an hour before the afternoon game, and Chen Chu found a seat in the auditorium and sat down. At this moment, a faint fragrance came from Luo Fei, who was sitting behind him. She leaned over slightly and asked curiously, "Chen Chu, have you broken through to the limit of the first level?" Chen Chu turned around, looked at the profile of the girl who was close at hand, shook his head and said, "No, but I did make a breakthrough in the dragon elephant skill recently." Dragon elephant skill? Luo Fei was confused. Chen Chu nodded and said in a low voice, "Yes, I have been practicing the dragon elephant skill more and more smoothly recently, and my strength has doubled, so I can defeat those people today." Zhenwu compatibility. Luo Fei was stunned. "I feel like this is the reason." Chen Chu knew that he couldn't hide it from her, so he was going to use this reason to cover up the changes in himself. The compatibility of Zhenwu is a very mysterious thing, and even the creator of the technique cannot be sure. Luo Fei exclaimed, "It allows you to have power comparable to the limit of the first level of heaven within a week. It seems that your compatibility with the dragon elephant technique is at least high. It's a pity." Speaking of this, Luo Fei showed a look of pity on her face. Because the dragon elephant kung fu is only a low-level kung fu, if Chen Chu practices high-level power-type kung fu, he might have some hope of catching up with Infuking. Chen Chu didn't take it seriously and said, "It's okay. I'll just switch to an advanced skill when I have mastered the dragon elephant skill and accumulated enough contribution points. Maybe by then my compatibility with that technique will be even higher." As long as the Zhenwu majoring reaches Dacheng, they can switch to higher-level exercises of the same type, which will automatically overwrite the original Zhenwu. Therefore, Chen Chu was not very worried about the fact that dragon elephant skill was a low-level skill. During the next wait, Chen Chu saw that it was still early and his consciousness sank and his perspective instantly switched to the heavily armored beast. In the dry cave, the heavily armored beast that had grown to 90 centimeters slowly opened its eyes, stretched its limbs and entered the river through the hole under the water. Gulu gulu. The bubbles rolled, the heavily armored beast's tail swung slightly, and its ferocious figure swam towards the deep water area. Soon, under the 10-meter deep river, a half-meter-long grass carp appeared in the sight of the heavily armored beast. The black figure lay slightly on the bottom of the river, motionless, like a piece of wood, watching the grass carp wander over until it was nearly half a meter away. Bang! The mud flew up, and the heavily armored beast's tail suddenly swung down and water exploded behind it. The figure was like a sharp sword shooting out, biting the grass carp's head in one bite. Click! Under the terrifying bite force, the head of the grass carp was directly bitten into pieces, making it look very ferocious. The half-meter-long grass carp was eaten in just a few times by the heavily armored beast. Then it disappeared into a black shadow and continued to look for the next prey. Chapter 40 Domineering. At 1:30, as the teachers took their seats, a list of the 200 people who had advanced appeared on the large screen in the sports center that was 20 meters long and 10 meters wide. At this time, Chen Chu also withdrew his attention from the heavily armored beast who had eaten and drank enough. As expected, "I'm so miserable." Xia Yui wailed because his name was not on the big screen. As a genius who built a foundation within a week, he should be the only one who did not advance. After all, even Li Wenwen was lucky enough to advance to the second round. Chen Chu glanced around and found his name in the first row, with a smile on his face. All those who have advanced will enter the venue and begin the second round of defense. Remember, stop at the point. As Lin Ziying, the director of Class 1, spoke, all the students on the list stood up from the auditorium, put on their weapons, and entered the venue one after another. After Lin Shui and the others went down, Chen Chu also stood up and put his long knife on his back. At this moment, Luo Fei made a cheering gesture to him with a smile on her face. Come on, Chen Chu, try to get back in the top 50. Chen Chu turned around and smiled at her, while Xia Yui beside him was a little confused. What happened? Where did they get the confidence to reach the top 50? When Chen Chu came to the field below, there were already many people on the 50 stages who couldn't wait to jump on. According to the rules, the person who takes the stage first and wins 4 games in a row will be considered successful and can no longer accept the challenge. In this case, the remaining opponents may be stronger the further they go. Zhang Hong from Class 15, who will challenge him? Li Tianyao from Class 4, who wants to challenge? I, Zhang Zilin, Class 9. Chen Chu did not rush to the stage, but turned to look at arena number 1 in the distance, where a girl wearing a black windbreaker and long hair tied into a ponytail stood sideways. While there were people in other arenas eager to challenge, no one went up to the number 1 arena, as if it was an invisible restricted area. Are you in Zeking from Class 1? Chen Chu took a deep look at the girl, then turned around and walked towards arena number 49. In arena number 2, the man carrying the pillar was so powerful that he knocked a classmate and his weapon away with one blow, exuding astonishing oppression. Passing by arena number 10, he saw Lin Shui standing on it, fighting a boy holding a two-handed knife. The two sides were fighting fiercely. In the 29th arena, Yi Rui and a boy were evenly matched. In the 34th ring, Li Meng, who was defeated by Chen Chu in the morning, swung a heavy hammer and knocked a boy off the ring with 13 hammers in a row. A manic laugh suddenly appeared on his face. But he hadn't been happy for long when he saw Chen Chu walking over from a short distance away, and the smile on his face suddenly froze. Fortunately, Chen Chu just glanced at him lightly and walked towards the back under Li Meng's nervous gaze. Fortunately, this guy didn't come to challenge me. He scared me to death. Li Meng patted his chest. When Chen Chu arrived at arena number 49, there were already 2 boys fighting on top. Seeing this, he stopped and watched with several classmates around him. Those who can enter the top 200 are not weak. Therefore, every time the 2 of them collide, the weapons will erupt into large sparks under the powerful impact, and the shock wave of the impact will make the air buzz. Bang! After more than 20 moves, the less skilled boy was kicked off the ring. Concession. On the 49th stage, the boy with short hair showed a proud smile on his face, looked around and shouted, "Who else is coming up?" There are only 200 students in the 50 arenas, so there are not many people around each arena, and those who are not competing are sitting in the auditorium. The students around these arenas are all waiting and watching, comparing their own strengths and thinking about which arena is more suitable to challenge. After all, everyone only has one chance. I come. Just when a student next to him was eager to try, Chen Chu jumped directly onto the 2-meter-high ring, and the boy with an inch-shaped head suddenly looked slightly condensed. From this handsome-looking boy, he felt a slight sense of oppression inexplicably. The short-haired boy was silent for a moment, then announced his family name, Class 37, Zhang Yiming. Class 3, Chen Chu. After saying that, Chen Chu pulled out a 2-meter-long straight knife from behind. Zhang Yiming did not dare to neglect it. The energy and blood in his body circulated, and a powerful aura filled the air. In the audience, when Chen Chu jumped onto the 49th stage, Luo Fei looked over. At the same time, Xia Yui also looked over and asked thoughtfully, "Fei Luo, tell me honestly, are you two hiding something from me?" The long-haired girl pursed her lips slightly, revealing a smile. "You'll know just by looking at it." Xia Yui was speechless. Kill. On the ring, Zhang Yiming gave a low shout and shot out. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Chen Chu across 4 meters. He held a knife in both hands and slashed down from above. The snow-white blade tore through the air and screamed, like a flash of white light falling from the sky. The wind of the blade even caused pain on Chen Chu's face. When sparks flew everywhere. I saw Chen Chu slashing with one hand and easily blocking Zhang Yiming's full-strength slash. His body didn't even sway and he ignored the impact of the sword. This scene made Zhang Yiming's face darken, and the eyes of several students watching below also narrowed slightly. Because this means that Chen Chu surpasses Zhang Yiming by a lot in terms of absolute power. At this moment, the majestic energy and blood in Chen Chu's body exploded, and the muscles in his body swelled. In an instant, his momentum changed drastically, like a giant elephant that was awakened. Clang. Chen Chu's wrist shook and Zhang Yiming was knocked back several steps with an astonishing burst of power. At this moment, Chen Chu stepped forward and slashed, and the harsh roar of the wind exploded in Zhang Yiming's ears. The strong breath of death made the hairs on his body stand up. Clang. Zhang Yiming held the knife in both hands to block the situation in front of him, and sparks suddenly flew everywhere. Under the violent force, Zhang Yiming was directly cut back several steps by the domineering sword. Before he could react, the fierce howling of the wind sounded again. Clang, clang, clang. There was no extra movement. Chen Chu just held the knife and slashed horizontally, vertically, and then horizontally. Each sword was extremely fast, and each sword contained an impact of more than 1,000 kilograms. Under such terrifying power, Zhang Yiming couldn't stop it at all, even if he was practicing advanced techniques. With just 4 blows, Zhang Yiming was cut down from the stage by Chen Chu in a domineering manner. His arms were shaking, and he couldn't even hold the weapon in his hand due to the sore muscles. Accept it. On the ring, Chen Chu slowly put away the straight knife. A gentle smile appeared on his handsome face, and he could not see the domineering and violent look just now. I lost. Zhang Yiming was a little bitter. Soon after confirming that Chen Chu would not rest, the second student jumped onto the 49th stage. Class 15, Lu Huang. Class 3, Chen Chu, pay attention. Roar. Accompanied by the faint roar of an angry elephant, Chen Chu looked like an angry giant elephant. The 2-meter-long straight knife tore through the air and slashed with a harsh roar. Clang, clang, clang. Chen Chu slashed with 3 swords and directly cut off the new student named Lu Huang from the ring, which was full of oppression. Suddenly there was silence. For Zhenwu, the first level of heaven is still in the process of building foundations, so the competition between these students seems very monotonous and boring. They are all competitions of strength and speed. Only when the strength of the two sides is close can the collision of exquisite moves and combat consciousness occur. With Chen Chu's current strength, he doesn't even need to use sword skills when his opponent has not reached the limit of the first level. He can be invincible by just slashing with absolute power and speed. Chapter 41. I can't afford to offend those in front. Under normal circumstances, the strong will naturally pursue a higher ranking, so the lower the ranking in the arena, the weaker the students defending the arena will be. But the absolute suppressive power Chen Chu displayed never looked like he was weak. Therefore, after the second challenger was beheaded, the 2 or 3 students watching on the stage looked solemn and hesitant, and no one came on stage. On the ring, Chen Chu looked around and asked, "Isn't there anyone who wants to challenge?" "I come." At this moment, a boy not far away who was carrying a huge sword like a door panel walked over. Seeing that no one was on the 49th ring, he quickly jumped up excitedly. Class 1, Yuan Cheng Wang. Class 3, Chen Chu. Both of them politely announced their class names to each other, and then Yuan Chengwang drew a huge sword behind him that was 40 centimeters wide and more than 2 meters long. "Brother, I practiced the advanced technique of the Tiank giant sword. I can use my sword skills to open and close, and I can overwhelm people with my strength. Please be careful later." Unexpectedly, the other party was so upright and even mentioned the focus of the technique first. Chen Chu paused slightly and introduced himself. "I practice the low-level technique Dragon Elephant Kung Fu. I major in strength and am relatively strong." "What? Low-level skills?" Yuan Chengwang was stunned for a moment, then a relaxed smile appeared on his face. "Brother, although I don't want to take advantage of you, but in order to get extra contribution points, I can only steal your ranking." Chen Chu's eyes were strange. "It's okay. If I lose, I can only say that my skills are not as good as others. Let's start. Let's show off." As he spoke, Yuan Cheng pointed his long sword, and his whole aura suddenly changed. A heavy sense of oppression filled the air, and the aura was overwhelming. This kind of strength. Chen Chu narrowed his eyes and became a little more serious, because he felt that this Yuan Chengwang might not be weaker than Li Meng. Bang! Yuan Chengwang stepped hard, and the ground shook slightly under the powerful force. He held the sword in both hands and instantly rushed towards Chen Chu, slashing down with his sword. The moment the swords met, sparks flew everywhere, and the surrounding air was blown away by an invisible shock wave under the collision. How can it be? Looking at Chen Chu who blocked his sword attack, Yuan Chengwang was slightly startled. "Didn't you say that you practice low-level skills?" In order to show respect for him, Chen Chu held the sword with both hands this time. After blocking Yuan Chengwang's sword, his arms violently exploded with force, knocking him away. Then he dragged the knife and slashed diagonally. Chiang! Sparks flew everywhere. Cut horizontally again. Holding the knife in both hands, he turned around and slashed with all his strength. Clang, clang, clang. After 5 consecutive violent slashes, Yuan Chengwang was knocked back to the edge of the ring. He was stunned by Chen Chu's overbearing power. At this moment, another sword that tore through the wind appeared in front of him. He had no time to avoid it and subconsciously thrust the sword in front of him. When, under the huge force, Yuan Chengwang fell directly from the ring. Chen Chu let out a slight breath, put away his knife and stood up. He looked at Yuan Chengwang, who was a little confused below, and smiled and said, "Classmate Yuan, it seems that the ranking of number 49 is still mine." Classmate Chen, are you really practicing low-level skills?" Yuan Chengwang was still confused. Chen Chu nodded, yes. A look of pain suddenly appeared on Yuan Chengwang's face. "Modan, if I had known earlier, I wouldn't have challenged you. The losses this time will be huge." Originally, he saw that the classmates in the front row were a bit fierce, and when he was not 100% sure, he ran to the back to challenge. What he thought was that these last students would be weaker and could easily win. Anyway, the rewards for the top 50 were the same, and he didn't care how many he ranked. Who would have thought that if he randomly picked a stage, he would encounter a pervert who was practicing low-level skills but could crush him with absolute power. And everyone only has one chance to challenge, which means that he can only watch next. Thinking of this, Yuan Chengwang felt even more miserable. But there is no choice. If you lose, you lose. You can only turn around and leave. After seeing Chen Chu's strength, no one of the students in the surrounding arena dared to go on stage. After waiting for a while, another girl came from the front. This girl had the same idea as Yuan Chengwang. She wanted to come to the ring at the back to get some bargains. She jumped up excitedly when she saw that there was no one in the 49th ring. Then, he was directly chopped away by Chen Chu's 3 swords. After winning 4 games in a row, Chen Chu firmly secured his number 49 ranking. Whoops! In the ring number 50 next door, Lu Feng, who had just knocked down a challenger, gasped and admired Chen Chu, who was 10 meters away. "Brother, you are still good." Compared with him, who was exhausted every time he defeated his opponent, the master opposite him was like an autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves, sweeping away all challengers with just a few blows. Chen Chu smiled slightly and said modestly, "No, it's just good luck." Lu Feng rolled his eyes. "Brother, please stop being modest. It's not like we didn't see how fierce you were just now. Brother, why don't you go to the front if you are so fierce?" Lu Feng was a little curious. Chen Chu shook his head and said modestly, "The students in front are too strong. I think I am no match for them. It would be good if I could get a ranking at the back. Suddenly I don't want to talk to you anymore." Lu Feng was speechless, put down his weapon, sat cross-legged, adjusted his breath and recovered. Just like the first round before, there is some time to rest and recover after each battle. Standing on the ring, Chen Chu looked into the distance. Fierce battles were still going on in those rings. It was expected that the second round would end in half an hour. While waiting boredly, Chen Chu silently analyzed today's harvest. Although most of these opponents were easily dealt with by him, the opponent's reaction and response during the battle also had something to learn from him from another perspective. In addition, the reason why he can be so relaxed is that his strength has improved in the past few days, and his strength attribute has reached 68 points. Now his arm strength is about 450 kilograms. In terms of pure strength, it is already 9 times that of an ordinary person, not more than 6 times as shown in the data. It seems that the higher the 4 major attributes are, the greater the growth in all aspects will be, rather than increasing according to normal multiples. In the audience, Xia Yui was already numb and looked at Chen Chu on the 49th stage in surprise. "What's going on? Why did Ah Chu become so fierce all of a sudden? You must know that there are more than 100 ordinary geniuses who have made breakthroughs in the school within a week. Except for a few unlucky ones, like him, the others have all entered the top 200. In this case, Chen Chu cut 4 challengers off the ring with several swords. The crushing strength he displayed was enough to rank among the top 10 in his grade. Is this still the Chen Chu he knows? Is it that good friend who barely managed to build a foundation in half a month and practiced 2 low-level exercises? Or was Chen Chu playing him when they were sparring with him a few days ago?" Luo Fei smiled slightly and said softly, "It's because of the Zhenwu compatibility. He said that when he practiced Dragon Elephant Kung Fu in the past few days, his strength strangely doubled. Zhenwu is in harmony, no wonder." Xia Yui suddenly said, I remember that when we were building the foundation, Chu was very compatible with the physical and strength-enhancing exercises. I didn't expect. After saying this, Xia Yui paused, and then a look of regret appeared on his face. Because the dragon elephant skill is only a low-level skill with limited potential. Even if Chen Chu can quickly break through the first and second heavens due to his high degree of compatibility, there is still a big gap between him and those who have practiced advanced techniques. This gap is not only the upper limit of the skills, but also the increase and explosive skills. The first level heaven has not yet cultivated its true power, and the true martial arts are only the way of cohesion, so the difference between low-level skills and high-level skills is not very obvious. At this time, the increase in low-level skills is doubled, and the increase in high-level skills is about 1.5 times. But after the true power is cultivated in the second heaven, the low-level skills only increase twice, while the true power gained from the high-level skills starts at 3 times. Some with a high degree of compatibility can even explode 4 times or even 5 times. This means that in the early days of the second heaven, when everyone's basic strength was 400 kilograms, the low-level strength skills could probably explode more than 2,000 kilograms of impact force. However, with the increase in the real power of advanced techniques, this basic power can explode with more than 3,000 or even 4,000 kilograms of power in one strike at will. This is just basic strength, not counting the explosive tricks that come with advanced techniques. Therefore, after the second heaven, the gap between the two sides will quickly widen. In addition, advanced techniques can break through the second level of heaven, refining the energy of heaven and earth faster, and the true power cultivated is more pure and other advantages. Thinking of this, Xia Yui looked pitiful. If Chen Chu's initial talent was better and he could build the foundation within a week, he would be able to practice advanced techniques. Now, alas. Chapter 42 You can be more arrogant. 50 arenas competed at the same time, and the second round ended in just 1 hour. Under the gaze of more than 2,000 people, as the big screen above the stadium refreshed, only 50 names were left standing high above. Chen Chu looked up and saw that his name was ranked 49th, with a faint smile on his face. In addition, he also saw a few familiar names. Lin Shui successfully defended the title in 10th place, Yirui was in 29th, and Li Meng, who was defeated by him, was in 34th. It's just that the squad leader's sister Lin Yu is in her 40s. This ranking made Chen Chu slightly stunned, because he felt that this girl named Lin Yu was very strong, maybe a little stronger than Li Meng. On the main stage, Lin Ziying announced, the second round of competition is over, and next is the challenge. Those who are not satisfied with their ranking have a chance to challenge the top 10. If you win, you will advance. If you lose, your original ranking will remain unchanged. Does anyone want to challenge now? I want to challenge 20 people. I want to challenge for 10th place. I also want to challenge 15. They are all freshmen, and they are all on the same level. With no worries, who is afraid of whom? Therefore, many people at the bottom choose to challenge the front. Including Lu Feng, who was ranked 50th, also chose to challenge Lin Yu, who was ranked 40th. On the contrary, Chen Chu made no move, and no one challenged the first place in Fuking. The challenge ended quickly with everyone watching. All those who challenged the top 10 failed, but a few who challenged the 20 or 30 succeeded. I now declare that the first freshman ranking match is over. On the main stage, Lin Ziying said solemnly, all freshmen who are ranked in the top 50 will receive an additional 5 contribution points every month during their schooling, which will last until the second grade. In addition, every student can get a 20% discount when redeeming on-campus resources. As soon as Lin Ziying finished speaking, a staff member hurriedly came to him and whispered something. After listening, Lin Ziying nodded slightly, and then said in a deep voice, I have something to do with the teachers here. Let's leave. The contribution points will be sent to your student accounts tomorrow. After saying these words, the teacher hurriedly left the table. When Chen Chu walked up to the audience with a knife on his back, Xia Yui shouted excitedly, Chu, you are so awesome this time, you actually entered the top 50. Chen Chu smiled, is it such an exaggeration? It's just 49 people. Xia Yui was speechless. Chu, you are good at everything. It's just how humble you look every time that makes me want to kick you. It's true. Puff. Luo Fei beside her couldn't help laughing when she heard this. Xia Yui snorted, it's only the 49th place. If you don't want it, you can give it to me. I didn't even get into the second round. I'm much unluckier than you. Luo Fei came to Chen Chu with a smile on her lips. Actually, Chen Chu, you can be a little more arrogant, because the top 50 freshmen are very powerful. There are nearly 2,000 students in the whole grade, and currently more than 700 to 800 people have successfully established the foundation, plus the more than 100 geniuses who have practiced advanced techniques. Under such circumstances, Chen Chu, who practiced the low-level dragon elephant skill, was able to reach the top 50. It can be said that everyone who knew him was surprised and stunned. Including Lin Shui and Yirui, neither Lin Shui nor Yirui expected that someone else in the class could enter the top 50, especially since that person's initial talent seemed to be average. That's why Luo Fei said that he can be a little more arrogant because he has the qualifications. Chen Chu smiled, okay, I'll be a little more arrogant, at least until everyone breaks through to the second heaven. While joking, the three of them walked out of the stadium mixed with the crowd. More than 2,000 people walked out of the stadium in a mighty manner, and then divided into small groups and dispersed. Today's competition was very intense and exciting for the contestants, but for the huge Nanjingao campus, not many people actually paid attention to it. Even the school only had some class teachers present, not even a leader. Not to mention the senior students, most of them were not in school, and of the few who were in school, only a few were interested. For them, the first level competition is not interesting, so they might as well practice more while they have this time. It was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which was still early. When Xia Yui and the others went to practice, Chen Chu followed Luo Fei to the 33rd floor to read. After rummaging through the bookshelf, Chen Chu took out a book on the anatomy of mutant beasts. Over there, Luo Fei was already sitting by the window, holding a Taoist scripture in her hand. Chen Chu came to sit opposite her and asked curiously, "Why do you sit in this position every time?" Luo Fei lifted a strand of hair from her ear, revealing her fair and beautiful profile, and chuckled, "Because the view here is wide and you can get some sunshine. Don't you think it's very artistic to read quietly and lazily under the setting sun in the afternoon?" As she said this, the girl winked at Chen Chu playfully. Chen Chu, who didn't expect this reason, paused. "You said a lot, and you are right." After saying that, they both smiled lightly, then lowered their heads to read their books, enjoying the rare afternoon time. There was no sign of a fierce and exciting competition ahead. But while he was reading a book, most of Chen Chu's mind suddenly focused on the heavily armored beast. Today's short-term glory did not let him lose it. He knew very well that his current advantage would not last long. If he wants to continue to have the power to suppress or even surpass those geniuses as the second heavenly queen, he can only count on the clone to evolve again. Under the surface of the turbulent river, a 90-centimeter-long heavily armored beast was wandering, looking through the turbid water, looking for prey. At this time, a group of cock-billed fish swam from above. The longest of these fish was nearly 1 meter, and the smallest was 30 or 40 centimeters. But the heavily armored beast only glanced at it and then looked away, continuing to slowly cruise along the river bottom. After these few days of hunting, Chen Chu found that these ordinary fish contained average nutrients, and the best ones were the large mutated fish. After eating mutant fish of the same size, it can contribute several times the high heat energy, greatly promoting the growth of the heavily armored beast's clone. Suddenly, the water flow in front exploded, and a huge black shadow rushed into the school of fish at an alarming speed. It opened its big mouth and swallowed a 1-meter-long cocked mouth. This is a mutated fish that is more than 3 meters long and looks like a large-mouthed catfish. Its whole body is covered with fine black scales. Its huge head takes up half of its body and is 1 meter wide. Its mouth was filled with densely packed sharp teeth, and 4 1-meter-long fish tentacles floated. It swallowed more than a dozen fish by just wandering back and forth, which was very ferocious. Bang! At this moment, the silt at the bottom of the river exploded, and the strength of the limbs of the heavy armored beast that was originally wandering slowly exploded, picking up the rolling silt and rushing towards the mutated catfish. Noticing the incoming heavily armored beast, the huge mutated catfish advanced instead of retreating. Its huge mouth grew like a black hole, emitting powerful suction. Gulu! The mutated catfish swallowed the heavily armored beast into its mouth in one bite. Compared to the mutant catfish, which is more than 3 meters long and has a head 1 meter wide, the heavily armored beast, which is less than 1 meter long, is just a little guy that can be eaten in one bite. Suddenly, the mutated catfish rolled crazily in the water, and rich blood gushes from its gills. A black head was seen poking out of the mutated catfish's head, and the 3 pairs of horns on both sides were filled with bright red blood, making the black armored beast look very ferocious. Chapter 43 Storm. The heavily armored beast wreaked havoc in the river. After eating and drinking, it swam back to the cave on the river bank and lay down in it to rest and digest. After regaining consciousness, Chen Chu looked up and found that it was already past 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The orange-red sunset was slanting in, creating streaks of light and shadow on the ground. It's already so late. Chen Chu sighed slightly. Ever since the heavy armored beast was released, he always felt that time passed so fast as he had dual functions of consciousness. A day passed in the blink of an eye, and it seemed that he didn't have time to do anything. At this time, Luo Fei, who was opposite, closed the book, looked at the time and asked softly, "It's almost time, do you want to go back together?" "Okay." Chen Chu nodded. As usual, the two of them put the books back to their original places and took the elevator out of the teaching building. On the sidewalk under the shade of the trees in the school, the setting sun penetrates through the branches and casts spots. The two of them walked side by side, and Luo Fei suddenly said, "You have swept away so many cultivation geniuses today, do you feel anything?" Chen Chu thought for a while. "Do you feel like those people are actually quite strong?" Luo Fei tilted her head slightly. "Why do you say that?" Chen Chu explained, "Didn't you notice that even though I suppressed them with absolute strength during the battle, they were still panicked? Even if I was caught off guard by my sudden outburst, my reaction instinct was very standard. I didn't panic when I failed. This shows that their will and character are very tough. As long as they accumulate more combat experience, their strength will not be underestimated. If you don't tell me, I really didn't notice this." Luo Fei was slightly stunned. Looking back on Chen Chu's battle today, she found that it seemed to be similar to what Chen Chu said. Those people were panicked even when faced with the suppression of Chen Chu's power. At the same time, she also admired Chen Chu for being so sober at this time. While chatting, the two walked out of the school and walked along the road. Boom! Suddenly there was a deafening thunder. Even though the setting sun was still in the sky and there were no thick dark clouds in the sky, large raindrops fell from the sky in dense masses. The sudden thunderstorm caught everyone off guard. The streets were full of people running to avoid the rain, and it was hard to get a car for a long time. Especially the strong wind, which makes people unable to open their eyes. Chen Chu and Luo Fei were also caught in the rain. There was a main road in front and behind them, and the nearest shelter from the rain was dozens of meters away. "You can shelter from the rain over there." Under the violent storm, Chen Chu quickly ran away with Luo Fei. There is a small roadside park with a pavilion inside, which was originally a place to enjoy the shade in summer. When the two of them ran into the pavilion, their clothes were all wet. Chen Chu was okay. He wiped his face, shook the water drops on his head and ignored it. But Luo Fei was a little embarrassed. Her long hair was wet and tangled with the white butterfly ribbon, revealing her clean and beautiful face. Her trousers also clung tightly to her body because they were wet, showing off her well-proportioned, slender legs. Still watching. Luo Fei's face turned slightly red, turning slightly to avoid Chen Chu's direct gaze. Chen Chu withdrew his admiring gaze and smiled, "You can't blame me. Who makes you so beautiful and in such good shape?" There was no trace of the embarrassment that a young man should have on his face, and his frank look made Luo Fei feel less ashamed and less nervous. Chen Chu said casually, "I don't know how long this rain will last." As expected, Luo Fei's attention was diverted. She raised her head and thought for a moment. Thunderstorms like this usually get smaller in a short time, and they might stop in half an hour. Thunderstorms in summer come so suddenly. Sometimes the sky was clear just a moment ago, and then it turns to dark clouds in the blink of an eye. Even though the sun was shining brightly, it was raining heavily at any time, which caught people off guard. Sure enough, just as Luo Fei had calculated, the heavy rain began to lighten up after more than 10 minutes, and then started to pour in less than half an hour. When the strong wind dissipated and the heavy rain subsided, the streets were filled with small puddles and leaves covered the ground. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, there was a sad and destructive beauty. Looking at the sun that had not yet set in the sky, Chen Chu shook his head speechlessly. "This is such a crazy weather." As he spoke, he began to unbutton his clothes, which startled Luo Fei. She quickly took a few steps back and said cautiously, "Chen Chu, what are you doing?" Chen Chu said angrily, "What do you think? Do you think you can walk back like this?" At this time, Chen Chu also took off his shirt, revealing his strong upper body, and his 8-pack abdominal muscles were clearly visible, full of masculine atmosphere. For the two people who practice Zenwu, it doesn't matter if they get caught in a little rain. They won't catch a cold at all. "Stop looking. Take it and put it on to cover it up." This time it was Chen Chu's turn to say this. Luo Fei looked away with some embarrassment, and took Chen Chu's clothes and wore them outside. On the way back, passers-by would always cast strange glances at Chen Chu, who was bare-chested and showing his standard figure. Especially the women, the younger ones will be embarrassed, but the married women will continue to stare with burning eyes. When they reached the crossroads where the two of them went home in different directions, Luo Fei said a little embarrassedly, "I'll wash the clothes and bring them to you tomorrow." "Okay." Chen Chu nodded. After returning home, Chen Hu asked curiously about Chen Chu's shirtlessness, but Chen Chu dismissed him casually. After dinner, Chen Chu practiced the dragon elephant kung fu and the mind-eyes bright sword before taking a shower. He lay on the bed and came to the heavily armored beast with a sudden loss of consciousness. It was already 11 o'clock in the evening, and he was ready to have a full meal before resting. But just when Chen Chu's consciousness controlled the heavily armored beast and he had just crawled out of the cave and entered the river, he suddenly heard vibrations and explosions from behind. The water surface of the earthquake is undulating. The sudden turn of events caused the heavily armored beast to pause and slightly poke its head out of the water. I saw more than a dozen figures chasing each other on the slope of the river more than 100 meters away. The speed was so fast that it was almost invisible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they appeared not far away from more than 100 meters away. At the same time, several armored vehicles followed closely behind, and the high-wattage searchlights on the vehicles illuminated the large area ahead like daylight. At this moment, a person in the chase jumped up like a rock and struck out with a palm. Boom! In an instant, the air exploded and the violent force was like a strong wind, flying away the turf within a dozen meters in front with terrifying power. Facing this blow, the two people at the front had no choice but to turn around and resist. Their bodies glowed with scarlet blood and transformed into two bucket-thick transparent blood pythons lying in front of them. Boom boom. With a domineering palm, the two blood python phantoms exploded. The red shock set off a wave that swept across a dozen meters, causing the earth to shake and flying sand and rocks. At the same time, because of this palm's obstruction, the figures behind him were like lightning, falling in all directions to surround the two people. Chapter 44 True Martial Shadow. The two people surrounded in the middle were tall and covered in black robes, looking shameful. They were surrounded by 8 people, including middle-aged men wearing law enforcement uniforms as well as Nanchan Yugo teacher Pang Long and others. At the same time, several armored vehicles stopped 100 meters away. The laser headlights illuminated the area as bright as day. There were soldiers above with sniper rifles aimed at the two people. At this time, Lin Xiang, who stopped them with a palm, slowly stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "You evil god's lackeys, forget about causing trouble in Korea, but you actually dare to come here to me, Dongxia. Tell me, who's waiting for you?" One of the men in black robes said hoarsely, "I don't understand what you are talking about. We are here to promote the will of the great supreme god Acunis." "Fee. I don't admit it." Lin Xiang's eyes were cold. "You guys think we can't find out if you don't tell us? No one is there to help you. How can you lurk for so many days without being discovered? Let me guess, you can't come here by land or by air, so you can only take the water route. And this city is related to waterways, and the only ones who can avoid various inspections are those groups and a few forces." At this moment, the two believers suddenly shouted fanatically, "For the great Ignis!" Boom! In an instant, the red light on the two people surged, and they squirmed into two even larger blood python shadows surrounding a few meters, and a strong evil aura filled the air. Seeing this, the faces of Pang Long and others surrounding them changed slightly, and they couldn't help but take a step back. "Be careful, use your true power to protect your body, don't get stained by the dirty blood." Bang bang. At this moment, 2 soldiers holding sniper rifles suddenly opened fire on an armored vehicle 100 meters away, and instantly a large red light exploded in front of the two believers. 2 bullets that were powerful enough to penetrate an armored vehicle tore through the blood python's body, blasting 2 large holes the size of wash basins through it. Finally, they were blocked by an invisible force in front of the cultivator's thigh. "You don't need to take action. Seal the surrounding area to prevent anyone from coming to pick them up." As he spoke, Lin Xiang's body exploded with a majestic force, and the heavy aura filled the air, slowly forming a 2-foot-tall black violent ape shadow behind him. Boom! Lin Xiang's aura surged several times. The aura of will and true power permeated the air, and the aura was like substance. The surrounding air was faintly solidified, and it was frighteningly heavy. He is actually a strong man from the 7th heaven, and he has condensed the shadow of the true martial arts. The expressions of the two people changed drastically. Didn't it mean that none of the high-level strong men here were here? Roar! Amidst the roar of the violent ape, Lin Ziang leapt tens of meters high, his body's black true power glowed brightly, and he shot it down with a palm in the air. At the same time, the phantom of the violent ape behind Lin Ziang also landed with a palm, superimposed in 2 layers, and instantly condensed into a black palm print covering a 10-meter range. Boom! As soon as the palm prints appeared, a terrifying heavy pressure fell from the sky on the 2 believers, causing their bones to crackle. The ground within 10 meters around the 2 people suddenly sank, forming a palm print more than 10 centimeters deep, which was terrifying. Faced with this almost irresistible blow, the 2 believers suddenly raised their heads, revealing 2 dark and rough faces. There was no trace of fear on their faces. Great Acunas, we are willing to dedicate everything we have, just for your traces to appear in the world. Show up, 9-headed god. Along with the strange and crazy prayer, the blood on the 2 people instantly became more intense, and a powerful force burst out from their bodies. In the burning blood light, ferocious blood python heads jumped out one after another, turning into 9 blood pythons roaring to the sky, and all this happened in the blink of an eye. The 9-bucket-thick python's head neighed, and its body was entangled like a pillar of blood, tearing towards Lin Ziang in the sky and collided with the palm prints falling from the sky. Boom! Red and black light exploded in the sky, and the violent force was like the explosion of hundreds of kilograms of high explosives. The shock wave kicked up soil and smoke all over the sky, sweeping across dozens of meters. The earth was shaking under the terrible explosion. Street lights on the road not far away along the river exploded with bang bang bang, and were all destroyed by the explosion shockwave. Such terrifying destructive power made the heavily armored beasts under the river in the distance tense up. After a few minutes, the smoke and dust subsided, revealing a large pit with a diameter of 8 meters in the center, and only some broken limbs of the black-robed man were left at the bottom of the pit. In the distance, Pang Long and others dissipated their external real power, walked over with solemn expressions, and stood at the edge of the pit. These people are completely crazy. They will blow themselves up if they disagree. The middle-aged man in law enforcement uniform said solemnly, "This is what's scary about them." Before joining the evil god cult, these people were just ordinary practitioners of the 3rd heaven. But after entering the evil god cult and obtaining something called divine blood, many people broke through to the 4th and 5th heavens, and their strength skyrocketed. And once the situation is unfavorable, these madmen will burn their divine blood and explode themselves. The self-destruction is powerful enough to seriously injure or even kill masters who are stronger than them. For this reason, many masters of the Kroya royal family were seriously injured in sneak attacks, causing the current situation to become increasingly corrupt. Lin Ziang walked over with a serious look on his face. "It's really troublesome." After they burned the so-called divine blood, their strength almost increased by a large level. "Originally, my strength was just that of entering the 6th heaven, but after self-destruction, it was almost as strong as one of my blows." Pang Long rolled his eyes. "Old Lin, stop pretending. We know that you are very powerful after breaking through the 7th level of heaven, and your self-destruction is as good as yours." Several other schoolteachers also looked envious and unhappy, as if seeing Lin Ziang show off made them uncomfortable. "Hey, aren't you convinced? If not, you can break through." Lin Ziang chuckled. Pang Long said with envy, "We think the problem is that there is still a little bit left. But Lao Lin, you have broken through to the 7th heaven. You should go back there, right?" Lin Ziang nodded. "Well, I have applied to be transferred to the frontline battlefield. I will leave when I finish teaching this semester. It's just that the evil cult has become more and more rampant recently, and it has spread among the small allies of Kalea. I don't know how the higher-ups will deal with it." While several people were talking, an armored vehicle from a distance drove over, and then some soldiers came down to collect the stumps of the 2 believers, preparing to take them back for study. After cleaning up, everyone got in the car and left, and the river bank fell into silence again. Only then did the water plants by the river in the distance sway slightly, and the heavily armored beast's head slightly emerged from the water, looking at the large pit in the distance in shock. He saw everything in the previous scene, and even vaguely heard some of the conversation between Lin Ziang and others. Chen Chu didn't expect that a high-level true martial artist could be so powerful. Only in the 7th heaven, he could unleash such terrifying destructive power with just one blow. Much more powerful than the martial arts masters in those videos. There were also words like Zhenwuxiang, evil god, divine blood, etc., which he also heard for the first time. It seems that the world is more dangerous than he imagined. After taking a deep look at the big pit, the heavily armored beast slowly disappeared on the river. It was going to eat a mutated fish to suppress its shock. This world was too dangerous. Chapter 45 The Beginning of Turmoil. The next day, the weather was cloudy. After Chen Chu got up, he moved his body, had breakfast, and went out with Chen Hu. Looking at Chen Chu, who was walking in front and getting taller and stronger, with a slight sense of oppression all over his body, Chen Hu was a little confused. "Brother, why can't we junior high school students practice?" A month ago, his brother looked thin and frail, but now he has become so handsome and powerful in just over a month, which is so enviable. Chen Chu explained, "Because your bodies have not yet developed and finalized and all body functions are not perfect enough, practicing domineering Zenwu too early will cause some abnormal changes. We still have to wait." Chen Hu felt a little regretful. Chen Chu glanced at him and reminded, "This is the experience gained from official research for many years, and it is naturally correct. When you get to high school, as long as you have talent, you can naturally practice. The school has systematic training and resources, which is safer than trying to figure it out on your own. Also, don't believe those false rumors on the internet and don't practice those incomplete Zenwu cultivation techniques, otherwise something will happen easily, you know." "I know, brother." After seeing that Chen Hu really listened to his words, Chen Chu nodded and said nothing more. "I don't know if something is going to happen, but there has been a lot of chaos on the internet recently, and some claims that everyone can practice true martial arts have been rampant. In addition, there are also people spreading various exercises on the internet. Although these exercises were quickly blocked and banned by the authorities, some secrets still leaked out. For example, Chen Chu took screenshots of several movies. Then I discovered that they were all low-level techniques with only 2 or 3 levels, and the content was incomplete. It would be difficult to successfully practice without going through the step of foundation building. And even if someone is gifted with evil spirits and really succeeds in practicing through this, he will still be stuck in the first and second realms without follow-up techniques. I don't know what the people who released these incomplete skills were thinking. You must know that with the current federal laws, almost everyone in the 3 major allies has the opportunity to practice when they are in high school. But whether you can succeed in cultivation depends on your talent. As for the small and medium-sized allies outside the 3 major countries, the Federation cannot interfere too much due to local laws and some agreements that form the Federation. Therefore, ordinary people in some countries also have the opportunity to come into contact with the cultivation techniques, but in some small allied countries, Zenwu is only controlled by the top management, and ordinary people have no chance to access it at all. Could it be that the purpose of those people online is to disrupt those small allies?" Thoughtful, Chen Chu came to school, but instead of going to the cultural classroom, he went directly to the training area on the 3rd floor of Building C. The exam was over last Friday, and his results were pretty good, so he didn't need to read anymore. "Chen Chu is here." "Hey, Brother Chu, you're here." "Chen Chu, you did a great job yesterday." As soon as Chen Chu walked into the 3rd floor, some classmates took the initiative to greet him, much more enthusiastically than before. The reason was naturally the influence of 49 students. After a day of fermentation, the simple information of the top 50 owners on the school's official website was dug out. The others were okay, at worst they were ordinary geniuses who built their foundation within a week, especially in Fuking, who ranked first, was even more disappointing. But among these people, Chen Chu is the only ordinary student who has built a foundation and practiced low-level skills within half a month. Being able to reach the top 50 surrounded by such strong people is naturally not a weak person, so the 2 words Chen Chu have also gained a certain reputation among the freshmen. However, he only has a little fame. Compared to Chen Chu, Li Hao, who is second in the ranking, is truly famous in Nanshan Wugao. It is said that he was able to carry a tripod when he entered school. He was born with supernatural strength. His basic arm strength reached more than 600 kilograms. After breaking through the first level, his arm strength skyrocketed to 900 kilograms. In addition, he is in perfect harmony with the advanced skills he cultivates, and the basic increase in the first level is doubled. When fully exploded, the force can reach a terrifying level of 3 to 4,000 kilograms. Such terrifying power, using 500 kilograms of alloy steel pillars as weapons, almost swept through the same level. No one is his enemy. Some people even said that in Fuking was no match for him. No way, the power is too exaggerated. Facing the active greetings of these students, Chen Chu also responded politely one by one, and then found a deserted training area to start today's practice. At noon, Chen Chu met Sha Yui in the dining hall. In other words, it's not that they bumped into each other, but Sha Yui came over with a smile. "Achu, have you thought about what cultivation resources you can exchange for?" "I haven't thought about it yet." Chen Chu shook his head. The school's training resources are very expensive and can only be redeemed by contribution points. If Chen Chu hadn't entered the top 50 yesterday and received additional rewards, Chen Chu's 3 contribution points every month could only be exchanged for some scraps. Xia Yui suggested, your dragon elephant kung fu is very compatible, so you don't need to worry about practicing the technique, so I suggest you exchange it for physical strengthening resources. In this way, as long as your physique reaches the limit of the first heaven as soon as possible, you will soon be able to break through to the second heaven. In this regard, I suggest you exchange it for a first-level life crystal, dragon blood ointment, or cold crystal liquid. In Xia Yui's opinion, Chen Chu had a strong burst of strength due to his high degree of compatibility and had made rapid progress in his major skills. What was holding him back now was his lack of physical fitness. But what he didn't know was that Chen Chu's physique had exceeded the limit of the first heaven, and what restricted him from breaking through to the second heaven was the progress of his skills. Regarding this misunderstanding, Chen Chu did not explain, but just nodded, okay, I will go to the logistics department to have a look later. Lao Sha, how long will it take for you to break through? Chen Chu asked curiously at this time. About half a month. Xia Yui said, although I was unlucky and did not enter the top 50 this time, I still contributed 4 points every month. With the remaining bits from last month, it can be exchanged for a life crystal to strengthen your physique. It is expected that you can reach the limit of the first level in a week. When the time comes, I will concentrate my energy and blood for another week, and I will almost be able to break through. You can cultivate your true power in just 1 week. Chen Chu was a little surprised. After reaching the limit of the first level, it is necessary to continuously run the skills to condense qi and blood and compress it to the extreme to give birth to true power. This situation can be as fast as infuking for a week. Those with less talent need half a month, or even 2 months, which is a very torturous mentality. And it's not just the second heaven. Every time you break through the first heaven, you will have to pass the first level. Many people who are not talented enough will be stuck in the third heaven for a lifetime. This is why the school divides authority levels based on initial talent. There is no way people with good talent can practice faster, break through the realm more easily, use the same resources to maximize the effect, and practice advanced skills with less difficulty. If someone with ordinary talent gives you advanced skills, it will be difficult to practice them. Because it is more difficult to get started, the resources required are more precious, and it is more difficult to break through the realm. Of course, nothing is absolute. After all, with such a large population in the world, there are always some monsters who have accumulated a lot of experience. Facing Chen Chu's surprise, Xia Yui said proudly, I am a genius. Although my initial training speed is a little slower than theirs, I am very good in other aspects. Chen Chu said thoughtfully, for example, the realm barrier is weak. Hee hee. I guess, it's just like your physique is well suited to strength-based exercises. Xia Yui paused and did not deny it. In his opinion, Chen Chu is also a talented person. I feel that in the next week, many people ranked in the top 50 will break through to the second level. I'm so envious. I get 5 extra points every month and a 20% discount on resource exchange. Xia Yui looked envious when he said this. Chen Chu also sighed and nodded, yes, with this resource tilt, many geniuses who originally took a month to break through will soon be able to break through. There is a big gap between having resources and not having resources. For example, Xia Yui, who normally practiced for nearly a month and a half, reached the limit of the first level more than a week earlier by using a life crystal. In this case, Chen Chu also felt a little pressure. Chapter 46 Breakthrough, Elephant Pattern. After eating, Chen Chu and Xia Yui came to the logistics department together. When Xia Yui went to redeem the life crystal, Chen Chu went to the self-service inquiry machine on the side, entered his student number and checked what resources were suitable for him to redeem. There are very few resources available for new students in the first level. At the same time, they are divided into 3 categories: strengthening physical fitness, increasing the speed of skill cultivation, and helping to achieve realm breakthroughs. Chen Chu took a look and found that there were 5 resources that could help him speed up the dragon elephant skill, including ice crystal snow lotus and Baoxiang essence and blood that had been redeemed once. But Baoxiang essence and blood requires 20 points of contribution. At present, he only has 8 points including ranking rewards. If you want to redeem them, you have to wait another month. As for the other 4 effects, just as Chen Chu was pondering for a moment, Xia Yui came over and said, Achu, how are you doing? Chen Chu did not answer, but asked casually, have you finished redeeming it? Yes, it's this thing. One of these costs me 5 contribution points. It's too cheating. As he said that, Xia Yui, with a face of pain, casually threw something as big as a thumb and shaped like a multifaceted crystal towards Chen Chu, who quickly caught it. After all, it was something worth tens of thousands, but just as Chen Chu caught the life crystal, a row of transparent words that only he could see appeared in front of him. Is the crystallized life energy discovered to be converted into attribute points? Crystallized life energy, attribute points. Looking at the transparent text that appeared in front of him, Chen Chu was slightly stunned and subconsciously asked in his mind, what are attribute points and what are their uses? Facing his inquiry, the transparent text in front of him changed. Attribute points, special powers converted from life energy, can be used to strengthen talents, strengthen skills, strengthen foreign weapons and other multifunctional purposes. Seeing this, Chen Chu's eyes lit up. From now on, the problem of weak initial talent and slow progress in practicing skills will no longer be a shackle for him. Achu, what's wrong? Looking at Chen Chu, who was suddenly stunned, Xia Yui was a little confused. Oh, it's all right. Chen Chu came to his senses, handed him the life crystal, and then said, I'm also going to redeem the life crystal. Okay, then I'm going to practice. If you need anything, come to me. Xia Yui didn't think much about it, because he had suggested that Chen Chu redeem this resource before. After watching Xia Yui leave, Chen Chu came to the counter and said politely, Teacher, I want to exchange for training resources. Enter your student number. You have 8 contribution points and the right to exchange for 20% off. What do you want to exchange for? 2 first-level life crystals. Hold on. Soon, 2 thumb-sized white crystals appeared in Chen Chu's hands. After thanking the teacher, he turned and left. Back in Building C, Chen Chu applied for a separate personal training room, looked at the 2 white crystals in his hand, and chose to switch. Buzz. As Chen Chu confirmed, an invisible force enveloped the crystals, and the 2 life crystals became transparent at a speed visible to the naked eye and finally turned into powder with a snap. He transformed 2 pieces of crystallized life energy, one of which gained 5 attribute points, and the other gained 3 attribute points. Do the 2 crystals contain different amounts? Chen Chu thought thoughtfully. According to the information, life crystals come from mutant beasts. After a few mutant beasts are killed, high-purity energy crystals will appear in their bodies. After absorbing this kind of crystal, human beings have the function of strengthening their physique and speeding up their cultivation. The higher the level, the stronger the effect, so it is more precious. Of course, any resource has an upper limit, just like drug resistance will develop. For life crystals of the same level, the first time is generally the best for physical enhancement, the second time will be reduced by half, and the fourth time will have almost no effect. Therefore, it has always been used as a training resource. 8 attribute points. Chen Chu whispered to himself, and then with a thought, he called up the attribute page. Level, first level. Physique, 69. Strength, 71. Agility, 58. Spirit, 61. Talent, Soul Splitting Plus. Skills, Lotus Platform Meditation Method Perfection Dragon Elephant Skill Plus Introduction, First Level Mind Eye Bright Sword Plus Sword Skills First Level, Mind Eye. Attribute points, 8. Split Body, Hexagonal Heavy Armored Beast. As the heavily armored beast grows in the past few days, Chen Chu's 4 major attributes are also improving. Among them, the physical and strength attributes are much higher than the agility and mental attributes due to the practice of Dragon Elephant Kung Fu. Now after obtaining the attribute points, Chen Chu found that there was a plus sign behind the skills and talents, which seemed to mean that they could be strengthened. When Chen Chu's attention fell on the plus sign behind the Dragon Elephant Kung Fu, a new reminder appeared in front of him. Do you want to consume 7 attribute points to increase the level of Dragon Elephant skill? The enhancement of the skill Heart Eye Bright Sword requires 10 attribute points, and the current attribute points are insufficient. The current attribute points are insufficient, and the strength talent cannot be improved, the defense talent cannot be improved, and the soul talent cannot be improved. Chen Chu tested all the ones with a plus sign and found that these attributes were only enough to strengthen the Dragon Elephant skill. As for why the Heart Eye and Bright Sword requires 10 points, it should be due to the different progress of his practice of this technique. As for talent, strengthen the Dragon Elephant skill. As Chen Chu was sure, a special and extremely pure energy appeared out of thin air in his body, and then started running crazily along the route of the Dragon Elephant skill. As that energy continued to circulate, his muscles and bones were strengthened at an alarming rate, and at the same time, a tough membrane was forming under Chen Chu's skin. Boom! When that energy was running wildly for more than 300 days, a layer of faint elephant skin lines appeared on Chen Chu's body, and the energy and blood all over his body suddenly condensed. In an instant, a domineering and violent force was born out of thin air in his body, and his whole person's momentum surged like a resurrected giant elephant, full of oppression. After a long time, Chen Chu slowly opened his eyes, and there was a faint flash of terrible aura in his eyes. Clenching his fists and feeling the power of the explosion in his body, Chen Chu exclaimed, "Is this how to break through the second heaven? It's so simple." The dragon elephant technique, which originally took a month to break through, was successfully broken through in the blink of an eye with enhanced attributes. This efficiency made Chen Chu feel short of breath. If he had enough life crystals, wouldn't it mean that his cultivation speed could soar like a rocket? But I don't have money, and this thing is controlled by the government, and you can't buy it even if you have money outside, so I still lack contribution points. Call. Chen Chu slowly exhaled and suppressed the impatience and greed in his heart. Take your time. With attribute points strengthened and his clones simultaneously strengthening his physique, he only needs to develop step by step to slowly reach the peak step by step. In this case, impatience may lead to accidents. Does he need to be anxious? Unnecessary. Chen Chu's mood slowly returned to normal, and then he took a deep breath. The domineering power in his body exploded, and his whole body swelled in an instant. Boom! The ground shook, and Chen Chu's figure stirred up a strong wind. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the wall 10 meters away with the strong wind roaring. The muscles in his right arm swelled and elephant lines appeared. Roar! Accompanied by the roar of the wind, Chen Chu punched the tester in the corner of the training room. Boom! The air roared and was directly blasted by Chen Chu's punch containing terrifying power, forming a substantial wind, and the alloy tester shook even more. Instantly the value on the tester jumped and stopped at 3,970 kilograms. At this moment, Chen Chu took half a step back, turned around and kicked his right leg like a tomahawk, slamming it into the alloy test plate with a violent wind. Boom! The entire tester shook under the terrifying force of this kick, and the numbers on it jumped crazily, finally stopping at 5,650. Chapter 47 Consciousness Influence. The punching power is more than 3,900 kilograms, and the kicking power is almost 5,700 kilograms. Chen Chu was very satisfied with this value. The dragon elephant's real power in the second heaven is more domineering and violent, and the increase in power directly reaches twice. At the same time, his breakthrough in realm has allowed him to sublimate his whole body. His physical fitness and strength attributes have increased by 30 points respectively, especially his strength has exceeded 100. Almost 10 times that of ordinary people. In addition, his spirit and agility have also been increased by 20 points each. It can be said that his strength has skyrocketed. In addition, the layer of elephant patterns formed in the second heaven greatly increased his defense, and he only felt a little pain when he hit the alloy test plate with his flesh and blood body. After all, forces act on each other. It can be said that among the low-level skills, the dragon elephant skill already belongs to the strongest category. It has both strength and defense, but the burst is a bit fast. Chen Chu felt that if he used his real power now, he would be exhausted after a maximum of 10 moves. Instead of using the burst of true power and maintaining a constant state of fighting, it would be no problem to fight with all his strength for a day and a night with his current endurance. Next, Chen Chu began to practice the matching moves of the second level of Dragon Elephant Kung Fu. The dragon elephant was furious, its arms were like elephant legs, sweeping in all directions, and its movements were violent and roaring. The violent burst of real power shook the air in the entire training room as if it was buzzing. Busy time always passes quickly. After 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as the school bell rang, Chen Chu ended today's practice. Although attribute points can strengthen the skills, in Chen Chu's opinion, daily practice should not be neglected. After all, no matter how small a mosquito is, it is still flesh, and it is better to make progress. Moreover, the strengthening of attribute points only omits part of the training process. You still need to become familiar with the moves and power through training, otherwise you will not be able to exert your full power. Arriving on the 33rd floor, Chen Chu found that Luo Fei was already reading a book, still sitting by the window, but there was no sun today. After rummaging through the bookshelf, Chen Chu found a book on deduction of the relationship between mutated beasts and mythical creatures. When Chen Chu came and sat down opposite her, the girl opposite her raised her head slightly, with a smile on her lips, but then she let out a light sigh and hesitated. Chen Chu, has your strength improved again? In Luo Fei's eyes, Chen Chu today felt more inexplicably oppressive than before, heavy and violent, like a huge beast sitting in front of her. A girl's sixth sense. Chen Chu paused for a moment, then nodded. Well, I went to redeem some cultivation resources today. After using them, my strength improved a little bit. Congratulations. The girl pursed her lips and smiled, without thinking too much, pointing to the bag on the table. By the way, thank you for the clothes you gave me yesterday. I have already washed them. You are welcome. Speaking of this, Chen Chu couldn't help but think of her appearance after being caught in the rain yesterday. Chen Chu laughed, and he seemed to feel a hint of youthfulness. Yes, I am in my prime now. When I am cautious in my conduct, I can actually be a little more wanton in my life. For example, his eyes passed over the pure and beautiful face opposite, and the corners of Chen Chu's mouth raised slightly. In the light and charming atmosphere, Chen Chu flipped through the book in his hand carelessly, then his consciousness sank, and his attention came to the heavily armored beast. Inside the cave, a heavily armored beast that had grown to 1 meter and was covered in light black armor slowly opened its eyes, moved its limbs, and left deep footprints on the ground with its claws. Although the armored beast is only 1 meter long, it weighs more than 100 kilograms due to its high density, and its body is as heavy as if it were made of steel. Under the cold river surface more than 20 meters deep, Chen Chu controlled his clone to swim slowly, with schools of fish of different sizes swimming around from time to time. It has no interest in these ordinary fish and heavily armored beasts. Its target is the mutated fish that have mutated on their bodies. After wandering for half an hour, suddenly, a ferocious mutant fish more than 2 meters long appeared in its eyes. This fish has a cone-shaped head, yellow cheeks, and its whole body is covered with palm-sized silver scales. It looks silvery all over, and its big open mouth is full of sharp teeth. The heavily armored beast's eyes lit up, and its tail suddenly swung, sweeping up billows of mud and sand at the bottom of the river and shooting them out. Just when the heavily armored beast launched its attack, the 2-meter-long mutant fish also noticed it. Taking advantage of its size advantage, the mutated vicious fish did not dodge, but shot towards the heavily armored beast at a faster speed, opening its big mouth in an attempt to bite off the heavily armored beast's head. Bang! Just as the mutated fish's mouth approached, the heavily armored beast slapped its upper jaw from the side with its claws. Under the terrifying force, half of the mutated fish's head was blown off. Killed instantly. Looking at the mutated fish carcass floating in the water, the heavily armored beast leaned over without haste, held its back with both claws, and bit down on the fish head with its mouth. Under the terrifying bite force, the head of the mutated fierce fish was directly bitten into pieces. Blood mixed with white spread in the water, making the black heavily armored beast look very ferocious. After killing the prey, it was time to eat. Chen Chu controlled the heavily armored beast to tear apart the body of the mutant fish, tearing off the fish meat in big mouthfuls and started eating. As he continued to hunt mutated fish during this period, Chen Chu's consciousness became colder and more ferocious when he transformed into a heavily armored beast. I am more decisive and skillful when hunting. I don't feel any discomfort when I tear it alive and eat it alive. On the contrary, I feel very good and happy after the brutal killing. A 2-meter-long mutated ferocious fish. Except for the internal organs, most of the fish bones were swallowed by the heavily armored beast, including good things like isinglass. After eating, the heavily armored beast thickened and became a little longer at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then he swam more than 10 miles deep in the river and hunted a 2-meter-long, ordinary mutant fish. After eating and drinking enough, the heavily armored beast returned to the cave to digest. Sitting on the seat by the window, Chen Chu regained consciousness, a cold and cruel look appeared in his eyes, and his whole aura became inexplicably terrifying. However, this feeling only passed by for a moment. When Chen Chu closed his eyes and opened them again, his eyes had become gentle and normal. Chen Chu thought thoughtfully, it seems that we need to pay attention to this issue. Opposite me, Luo Fei closed the book in her hand and raised her head curiously after hearing this. Pay attention. What should you pay attention to? Nothing. Chen Chu smiled slightly and changed the subject. It's almost 6 o'clock. Do you want to go back together? Okay. The girl nodded. Chen Chu followed Luo Fei to put the book back in its place, and walked into the elevator with the bag containing his clothes in his hand. At this time, not only them, but other classmates who were reading were also preparing to leave one after another. In the elevator, seeing more and more classmates coming in, Chen Chu leaned back slightly, blocking Luo Fei who was standing in the corner, so the two of them were close to each other. The third update is completed today, brothers, continue tomorrow. Let me mention here, The title of this book is Stellar Behemoth, and it will definitely get closer to the behemoth later on, but not at the beginning. At present, the real golden finger of the main body is the attribute points, and the strengthening of the physical constitution is only incidental. The main clone will be handed over after it grows into a giant beast later. Chapter 48. They are so powerful. At night, Chen Chu sat cross-legged on the bed, consciously controlling his true power to continuously circulate along the second level of the dragon elephant kung fu. He could clearly feel that this transparent true power would emit suction when it was operating, forcing the extraordinary energy free from the outside of the body into the body for refining. There is no need to rely on mental power to guide it into the body like before, and the efficiency of cultivation is several times that before the breakthrough. After refining the free energy, these true powers will grow stronger every time they circulate, and then return to the danshin to start a new round. However, unlike those martial arts novels where the internal force travels through the meridians, although it also starts from the danshin, the root of true power is very complicated. Not only will it travel under the fascia and skin, but it will also shuttle between some muscles and bones. Wherever it passes, it will temper and strengthen the entire body's physique. This is also the reason why Zenwu practitioners are getting stronger and stronger. The dragon elephant kung fu, which focuses on strength and defense, has a better tempering effect on the physique. After practice, the muscles are more explosive and the skin is tougher. Almost an hour later, Chen Chu opened his eyes. Call. Chen Chu let out a breath, carefully felt the changes after practicing, and then thought slightly, this progress is a bit slow. The first level of heaven is mainly about tempering the physique and giving birth to true power. Therefore, the physique must be tempered to about 5 times that of ordinary people, and the arm strength must reach 300 kilograms to touch the edge of breakthrough. After breaking through the second heaven, the cultivator's focus was on increasing the true power until the danshin was filled, and the tempering of the physique became secondary. As for the physical limit of Erzongtian, it is about 800 kilograms of arm strength. This limit is not the limit of human biology, but the limit of the tempering effect of the second level of natural power on the body. Only by breaking through the third level of heaven can the more powerful true power continue to be tempered and strengthened. But because cultivators do not need to strengthen their physique to the limit as long as the true power fills the danshin, they can break through by continuously compressing the true power and atomizing it. Therefore, some extreme cultivators will pay less and less attention to physical strengthening, and they will pursue breakthroughs in the realm of true power. Because the higher the realm, the more terrifying the true power is, and one can even control the power of heaven and earth to fight. Compared with high-level cultivators, especially the top experts in the 9 heavens, the hundreds of thousands of kilograms of strength gained by their physiques are not worth mentioning at all. Only those who have been stuck in one realm for several years or more will spend energy tempering their physique to the extreme of their current realm. Because when you practice and temper your physique, some real power will be consumed, which will affect the progress of your practice. Recalling what Pang Long had said in his mind, Chen Chu estimated that if he wanted to fill his danshin with true power, he might need to practice for more than half a year under normal practice. Half a year. Thinking of this, Chen Chu sighed. After his 2 consecutive avatars evolved, and as his basic physique improved, his talent was actually no worse than those geniuses who relied on resources to break through within a week. In this case, it will take half a year to break through to the third heaven. So how long will it take for those who build the foundation in half a month or a month? Chen Chu once again felt the difficulty of cultivation. It took at least half a year for him to break through to the third level of heaven from the second level. What about the third level of breakthrough to the fourth level? According to the increase in the difficulty of breaking through each heaven, it will take at least 2 years for people with poor qualifications to break through to the third heaven through normal cultivation. Thinking of this, Chen Chu couldn't help but feel happy. Fortunately, he can use attribute points to directly strengthen the realm of breakthrough skills. At noon the next day, when Chen Chu, who had practiced swordsmanship all morning, came to the dining hall, he met Lin Shui and Xia Yui, who were also lining up. Achu, here. Xia Yui waved to him. When Chen Chu came behind him, Xia Yui couldn't wait to say, Achu, have you heard about it? You didn't say anything, but I heard you were a big deal. Chen Chu couldn't help complaining. Hey. I thought you knew. Xia Yui chuckled and then gossiped, this morning, I heard that Li Hao, who ranked 2nd, and Hong Tiani, who ranked 3rd, both broke through to the 2nd level. That Li Hao is said to have reached the limit of the first level of heaven long ago by building a foundation in 3 days. This time, after taking second place, he directly broke through with the help of cultivation resources. Chen Chu nodded, I know him. I was deeply impressed by Chen Chu, a powerful classmate who was 2 meters tall and used heavy weapons. After all, he was a fierce man carrying an iron pillar to fight. While they were talking, several people prepared their meals, took their plates, and found an empty table to sit down at. After sitting down, Chen Chu looked at the purple-haired girl opposite and asked curiously, Squad leader, how long will it take for you to break through? As the 10th ranked genius in the ranking competition, Lin Shui is currently very popular among the freshmen. There is no other way, not to mention her beauty, she is still so strong. Lin Shui thought for a while, I used some resources yesterday to strengthen my physique to the limit of the first level. The next step is to warm up and condense my true power. It is expected to take a few days. The squad leader is awesome, we are about to break through so soon. When praising Lin Shui, Chen Chu's tone was very sincere, as if he had completely forgotten that he broke through to the second heaven yesterday. Lin Shui shook his head, I just used resources to break through in advance, there is nothing to be proud of. Originally, after building the foundation, Lin Shui expected that he would be able to break through in more than a month, but this time it was only a week ahead of schedule, so he didn't feel much. And it wasn't just Lin Shui who broke through. The next week or so passed by in a flash, and from time to time the top 50 people broke through to the second level. At the same time, some gossip about Chen Chu began to leak out. It is said that he was able to reach the top 50 because of his high level of compatibility with the dragon elephant skill and his explosive power that exceeded the limit at the first level. Even so, there were only 49 people mixed in. Once those geniuses who have practiced advanced techniques break through to the second heaven, this advantage of his will be crushed. And according to the training speed of low-level skills, even if he exchanges resources to speed up his training, it will take at least more than a month to break through to the second level. At that time, not to mention the top 50, the advanced practitioners who did not enter the rankings all broke through early. Any of these people can suppress Chen Chu with any strength. To him, being ranked among the top 49 in his grade will no longer be an honor, but a mere mockery. How's it going? What do you think after listening to this? Thursday afternoon. In the reading room on the 33rd floor, Luo Fei recounted all the comments she saw on the official website. Chen Chu thought for a while, nodded and said, I don't have any thoughts. They are right. Those people who are talented in cultivation are indeed much better than me. Looking at Chen Chu's calm expression, Luo Fei blinked her beautiful eyes and asked curiously, aren't you afraid that someone will break through to the second level and challenge you? Although according to school rules, the ranking of freshmen will not change until their sophomore year, but if someone really takes action to defeat Chen Chu, his popularity will definitely increase. Not afraid. Why? Luo Fei was confused. Chen Chu smiled, those ranked in front of me will not take action, and those who have not entered the rankings, only those who have practiced advanced skills, are dangerous to me. But these people only contribute 5 points a month, which is less than me now, and they don't have the 20% discount permission, so they can't redeem many resources. When they break through, I will almost break through. By then it's not certain who will win or lose at the same level. Chen Chu didn't tell others about his breakthrough because it went against common sense. After all, the talent he showed before was only average, and even the excuse of high compatibility with Zhenwu was too conspicuous and there was no need to say it. Of course, he didn't want to pretend to be a pig and eat the tiger, but he was used to keeping a low profile and felt there was no need to publicize it everywhere. But if anyone offends him, he will slap him to death. Looking at Chen Chu, who looked calm and unmoved by the outside world, Luo Fei pursed her lips and smiled. The two chatted for a while, and then each immersed themselves in the atmosphere of reading. Of course, Chen Chu seemed to be reading a book, but in fact most of his attention went to the heavily armored beast. The ferocious beast that had grown to 1.3 meters slowly entered the river. More than a week has passed since breaking through to the second level of heaven, and the heavily armored beast is either hunting or preying on it every day. As the heavily armored beast continued to grow and become more powerful and ferocious, Chen Chu discovered that there were fewer and fewer mutated large fish in this section of the river, and he often had to swim several miles before encountering one. As a result, a lot of time is wasted just looking for prey every day. Under the river surface more than 10 meters deep, the heavily armored beast was biting fish meat in its mouth with a thoughtful look in its eyes. It seems that when the heavily armored beast evolves again, it will go to the sea to find food. Chapter 49 Those who believe in God can live forever. The next morning, Chen Chu just walked into the school and met an acquaintance. Li Meng, who had been defeated by him in the ranking competition, stood on the roadside. After seeing Chen Chu, he said excitedly, "Chen Chu, you are finally here. Is something wrong?" Chen Chu looked at him inexplicably. Li Meng smiled proudly, "I am waiting for you here today because I want to tell you that I have broken through to the second heaven." "Then what?" Li Meng was speechless. Don't you feel any pressure?" Chen Chu looked at him strangely. "Why should I feel pressure? Are you planning to challenge me to avenge my defeat that day?" "Of course not. I, Li Meng, am not the kind of person who takes advantage of others' danger." Li Meng said proudly, "Although I was careless that day, I am convinced that I lost. I came here today to tell you that I have already said on the official website that if someone challenges you after you break through to the second level of heaven, you need to defeat me first." "What expansion is this?" Chen Chu was a little confused. Li Meng snorted, "As someone who defeated me in the first level, those who want to step on you to get the upper hand are equivalent to stepping on me. Naturally, I can't let them do so. Besides, we don't know each other. We are all friends. You don't need to thank me for such a small thing." "No, when did I ever say thank you? Also, when did we become friends?" Chen Chu was a little confused for a moment. "Wait, why are you so sure that I am weaker than you after breaking through to the second level?" As he said this, Chen Chu's eyes became strange. During this period, as the heavily armored beast grew, his attributes in all aspects were improving. His physical constitution had reached 115 points, and his strength attribute had reached 120. With the increase of Dragon Elephant Kung Fu, the fist power has exceeded 4,000 kilograms. In this case, even if geniuses like Li Meng become more powerful after their breakthrough, Chen Chu is confident that he can defeat them. "No way, the basic attributes are too much." Li Meng said matter-of-factly, "Of course, I am a genius who has practiced advanced techniques. The strength of the queen after breaking through to the second level is no longer what it used to be. But don't be discouraged. We can participate in trial tasks after our second year of high school, and there will be many opportunities to gain contribution points. At that time, you can find ways to accumulate contribution points and exchange them for advanced techniques and training resources. Maybe you can catch up with me one day. Come on, classmate Chen Chu, I will wait for you in front." After saying this, Li Meng, who was full of confidence, turned and left, not giving Chen Chu a chance to speak at all. Chen Chu took a deep breath. "Forget it, if you don't have the same experience as him, you are just a second-rate person." After comforting himself, Chen Chu slowly suppressed the idea of beating this guy violently. "Have you heard that half of the country of Kailua has fallen?" "Yes, I heard that many people have died. Those cultivators want to establish some kind of earthly religious religion, preaching that the doomsday judgment is coming and that only by believing in God can you live forever. Do you think there really is a God in the world? What is a God? It's just an individual whose power exceeds that of a social group. We cultivators will become gods in the end." When Chen Chu walked into the training room, he heard many people discussing the situation in Kailua. More than a month has passed since the unrest in Korea. Instead of stabilizing, the situation has become increasingly intense. The federal parliament is currently discussing whether to intervene. According to federal rules, all allies have autonomy under the unified regulations. Only when a major incident occurs that affects the human federation will the three major powers have an excuse to intervene. I hope it won't spread here. Chen Chu has gotten used to his current life and doesn't want to be broken by accidents. "Chen Chu, you're here." A male classmate greeted Chen Chu. Chen Chu also smiled and nodded at them. "Here you come, you guys come so early every day." The student with a pockmarked face shrugged. "There is no way, our talent is a little less than others, we can only rely on hard work." In recent times, Chen Chu has become famous because he entered the top 50 as an ordinary student, and has become quite familiar with his classmates. In other words, these classmates took the initiative to get close to him. Of course, it's not to curry favor, just because he gives face to students with average talent. Everyone chatted together for a while, and then started today's practice. Chen Chu also started practicing sword skills as usual. When these students started practicing, Chen Chu stood in the middle of the crowd holding a knife, closed his eyes and let go of his senses, and instantly entered the state of mind like a mirror lake. In Chen Chu's empty spiritual consciousness, 3 human body lines appeared vaguely around him, emitting circles of fluctuations during practice. Compared with the dragon elephant skill, which can be steadily improved through practice, the mind's eye, which emphasizes understanding, seems to progress very slowly in practice. I have been practicing for a month now, and currently I can only sense qi within a range of about 10 meters. With the current progress, if Chen Chu wants to practice to the point of introducing sword skills and sensing a certain range of malice around him with a single thought, he doesn't know how long it will take. The time Shen invaded in cultivation passed quickly, and several days passed in the blink of an eye. October 17th, more than half a month has passed since the ranking competition. Thanks to the excitement of that battle, many new students have broken through to build foundations during this period. Currently, there are nearly 900 first-year high school cultivators, accounting for half of the new students. This ratio far exceeds that of previous years. In the past few years, only 1/3 of the freshmen were able to practice foundation building. Moreover, in the second and third years of high school, half of these people will choose to give up because of their slow cultivation, and only 1/10 of them can break through to the third level and graduate. This is still the last few years. You must know that 10 years ago, when the foundation building method was not popular, only a few dozen students could practice it every year. It can be said that those who were able to practice at that time were geniuses, and those who were able to persist in practicing at that time are all very strong now. For example, those martial arts teachers today. At noon, looking at the canteen that was several times more lively, Chen Chu chose a window with fewer people to line up, but as soon as he lined up, Sha Yui came over from behind. Sha Yui patted his shoulder excitedly and said enthusiastically, "Achu, haven't you seen me for a few days?" Chen Chu looked back at him and said casually, "What do you want from you? Introduce me to my girlfriend?" "Are you sure you want me to introduce you to a girlfriend? Didn't you say that women will only delay your drawing of the sword?" Sha Yui's eyes lit up. He knew many beautiful girls. It just so happened that during this period, people came to him every day to inquire about Chen Chu's information. If Chen Chu wanted to, it was not impossible for him to help introduce them. "You still take it seriously?" Chen Chu was speechless and changed the subject. "But if you don't tell me, I haven't noticed yet. I don't seem to have seen you much in the past few days. We are brothers, good brothers. You make me so sad." Sha Yui looked resentful, and Chen Chu couldn't help but shudder. "Don't look at me like this, otherwise I'm afraid I won't be able to help but punch you," Chen Chu said and took a step back. "Okay, no more joking, Achu, I finally broke through to the second level." "Really? Congratulations, it's amazing," Chen Chu praised continuously, with a sincere tone. But Sha Yui was inexplicably suspicious. He always felt that something was wrong. Chapter 50, Dominate the Whole Life. Sha Yui had the best relationship with him at school and was very helpful to him in the early stages, so Chen Chu was really happy about his breakthrough. Just looking at Chen Chu with a smile on his face, Sha Yui said speechlessly, "Originally, I was indeed very happy. After all, there are only more than 30 freshmen who have broken through to the second heaven. But just now, I suddenly couldn't be happy anymore." "Why?" Chen Chu looked at him strangely. Sha Yui came over and whispered, "Achu, tell me honestly, when did you break through the second heaven?" Last month, Sha Yui noticed some inexplicable changes in Chen Chu one day. There seemed to be a slight sense of oppression all over his body, and he seemed to have become much stronger. At that time, he asked Chen Chu about it, but Chen Chu just said that he felt wrong, so he didn't think much about it. But who knew that in the ranking competition that followed, Chen Chu would directly explode with absolute strength that could overwhelm many geniuses, shocking him for a moment. And just now, he vaguely felt that faint sense of oppression from Chen Chu, so familiar and painful. He couldn't get this feeling wrong again. This guy had become stronger again, which made him feel pressured even after he had broken through the second world. Seeing this, Chen Chu no longer concealed anything and smiled. "It didn't take long. I only made a breakthrough yesterday." At first, it was because he broke through too quickly that he couldn't publicize it too much. More than half a month has passed. As a different kind of genius, it may be surprising for him to break through to the second level, but it is also reasonable. Hearing Chen Chu's admission, Sha Yui had a real expression on his face. "I knew it, I didn't feel wrong." "Lao Sha, how did you guess that I had a breakthrough?" Chen Chu was a little confused. After the breakthrough, he has been covering his whole body with mental power and condensing his breath. Until now, no one has discovered that he has reached the second level. "Because I have been sensitive since I was a child, especially to the strength of the breath." Speaking of this talent, Sha Yui was a little proud. Chen Chu didn't want to talk to him at this time. He worked hard for so long to cultivate the realm of the mind's eye and finally made a breakthrough with enhanced attributes, possessing a keen sense of danger and malicious sight. But this guy is actually born with a keen sense of the strength of his breath. This ability is not strong, but sometimes it may have unexpected effects, and it is also an alternative talent. While they were talking, both of them had prepared their meals and were carrying their plates to find a table to sit down at. At this time, Luo Fei, who was not far away, waved to them. As soon as Chen Chu and Xia Yui sat down, Li Wenwen, who was sitting with Luo Fei, asked curiously, "What did you two say over there just now? You've been chatting for so long." After almost 2 months of stuffing Hu Chai, this girl with short hair who was cute at first has gained a lot of weight, and now she has a chicken drumstick stuffed in her mouth while talking. Xia Yui pretended to be nonchalant and wrote, "Nothing, just talking about a Chu and I breaking through to the second heaven." "What, you guys have all broken through?" Cough, cough. Li Wenwen was startled and almost choked on the chicken drumstick in her mouth. Xia Yui glanced at her and couldn't help but feel proud. "Of course, I'm a genius. I'm only in the second level. I can break through in just 1.5 months." But no one paid attention to him at this time. Li Wenwen looked at Chen Chu and said in surprise, "Chen Chu, when did you break through? How come you are so fast?" You must know that she built the foundation 2 days earlier than Chen Chu. She is still far away from the second heaven. I don't know how long it will take to break through. I had a lucky breakthrough yesterday. As for the reason, it should be related to the dragon elephant skill. Chen Chu explained with a smile, coupled with the contribution point rewards for the top 50 and 20% off permissions, I also redeemed some resources to speed up. I see, but you are still very powerful. Li Wenwen was a little envious. When Luo Fei on the side heard Chen Chu say that he had a breakthrough yesterday, she pursed her lips slightly and showed a faint smile, but she did not completely believe it. The squad leader has made a breakthrough, and you have also made a breakthrough. We are the only ones who are still standing still. We don't know when we will be able to break through to the second level. Li Wenwen looked sad. Well, don't count me in, I should be almost there too. Luo Fei coughed dryly and separated herself from those who were still standing still. What, Luo, are you going to break through too? How is it possible? Li Wenwen was shocked again, her eyes widened in disbelief. Luo Fei tucked her forehead hair behind her ears and said softly, "Since I found a reading method that improves the fit, my cultivation speed has become much faster." Thinking of Luo Fei's cultivation method, which only requires reading Taoist and Buddhist scriptures to improve the compatibility of the exercises, not only Li Wenwen, but even Chen Chu was a little envious. It turns out that I am the worst offender. You guys are so bullying. Li Wenwen was a little crazy. Xia Yui suddenly said, "Achu, since we have broken through the second heaven, are you interested in competing and learning from each other? Are you sure?" Chen Chu looked at him strangely, wondering why he wanted to be abused. Xia Yui said confidently, "I admit that you are very powerful, but now that everyone has broken through the second heaven and gathered their true power, I don't believe that you can suppress me. You know, I didn't just make a simple breakthrough this time. After my brother found out that I practiced the Xuanwu-thick earth technique, he specially got me a bottle of giant beast essence and blood and sent it back. Giant beast essence and blood. This time, not only Chen Chu, Luo Fei, but also Li Wenwen showed surprise on their faces. Everything that has the name of a giant beast is very expensive. Even ordinary giant beast blood essence and blood start at 50 contribution points on the school's redemption list. Xia Yui chuckled and said, "That is an ordinary giant beast called the mountain giant turtle. After I absorbed the blood essence when I broke through, all aspects have been greatly improved. Under normal circumstances, the real power increase of advanced skills that break through the second level is usually about 3 times, but my current defense increase has reached 5 times, which is scary. In addition, my strength has also increased significantly after absorbing the essence and blood of the giant beast. Now if I encounter that guy Li Meng again, I am confident that he will not be able to break my defense." Chen Chu suddenly said, "Where is Li Hao?" The proud smile on Xia Yui's face suddenly froze. Poof. Luo Fei and Li Wenwen couldn't help laughing, especially Luo Fei, who had also seen Xia Yui being violently hit by Li Hao. While joking, the 4 of them finished their meal and took a short rest before heading to the training room on the 3rd floor. Everyone was taking a lunch break at this time, and there was no one around. Chen Chu and Xia Yui stood more than 10 meters apart, and Luo Fei and Li Wenwen, who were the audience, were even further away. Xia Yui licked his lips and said excitedly, "Achu, I will always be your brother. I was able to suppress you last time we sparred, and it will be the same this time. Today, I, Xia Yui, will rise from here and dominate Nanchen Wugao for an era. Looking at Xia Yui, who was getting up in the second year of middle school, Chen Chu and Luo Fei and others in the distance were speechless. Especially Chen Chu. I don't know when this guy became a brother. It's not clear who is older and who is younger. However, Chen Chu did not deny that the last sparring session was suppressed, but today. Thinking of this, Chen Chu's eyes gradually showed anticipation. He really wanted to see Xia Yui's expression after being suppressed by him. At the same time, he also had some expectations for the power of the advanced skills to break through to the second level of heaven. This was the first time he had fought against someone who was also at the second level of heaven since his breakthrough. As the true power is cultivated, the characteristics of each true martial arts method will gradually be revealed. The power burst of majoring in power will be stronger. The speed will be faster. Not to mention the defense of the golden body, the second level can ignore ordinary swords and guns. Chapter 51 Domineering. This time both of them used weapons. Xia Yui was still carrying the thick shield that was as tall as a man, with more than 10 centimeters of spikes all over it, like a hedgehog. Coming. Along with the low roar, a majestic and thick aura erupted from Xia Yui's body, and a faint earth-colored light appeared on his skin. Bang! Xia Yui rushed towards Chen Chu with a bang. The ground shook slightly with every step he took. Everyone seemed to vaguely see a huge turtle charging. Chen Chu suddenly became excited and felt his blood boiling all over his body. Roar! Along with the faint roar of the elephant, a violent force burst out in Chen Chu's body. He held the knife in both hands and instantly turned into an afterimage and shot out. At this moment, his speed exceeded 40 meters per second, and they collided hard almost instantly. The straight knife struck the shield with terrifying power. Boom! The air exploded, like the sound of a bell. Chen Chu did not experience an increase in his real power with this blow, but just a normal burst of power. But coupled with the kinetic energy carried by the speed, the force of this sword was at least close to 3,000 kilograms. The moment it struck the shield, sparks flew out and energy overflowed. But Xia Yui was like a basalt with terrible defense. His feet stood firmly on the ground, as if taking root, without even shaking. The power of Chen Chu's sword was perfectly restrained on the ground by the triangle formed by his shield. Under the Xuanwu thick earth true technique, his aura is connected to the ground beneath him. The cement floor. As long as he remains still, most of the impact force can be directed into his body through the true power fluctuations in his body. If you want to shake him, unless Chen Chu's instant burst of power is more than twice his, it won't even be able to shake him at all. Whoosh! Chen Chu's figure flashed beside Xia Yui, slashing with a straight knife in his hand. The sharp blade tore through the air, and even stirred up harsh winds because of its speed. Boom! The violent sword was blocked by the thorn shield again, and except for exploding sparks all over the sky, it could not shake Xia Yui in the slightest. Clang, clang, clang. Chen Chu surrounded Xia Yui and slashed several times with his sword, but he quickly turned around and blocked the attack with his shield. From a distance, it looked strange, as if Chen Chu's sword was actively sending towards the shield. I told you, I'm very strong now. With a proud laugh, Xia Yui rushed forward with his shield, like a giant turtle turning over, and a fierce counterattack burst out in an instant. Bang! The shield and the straight knife collided fiercely. Chen Chu held the knife with both hands to block Xia Yui, but his figure remained still. How is that possible? Your power. Xia Yui was a little surprised. Chen Chu smiled and nodded in approval. Yes, your strength has indeed improved a lot after the breakthrough, whether it is defense or strength. Next, I will also take it seriously. As he spoke, the real power in Chen Chu's body exploded, and the muscles all over his body suddenly expanded in a circle under the stimulation of the real power, and a violent momentum shot into the sky. At this moment, he was like an enraged elephant. Boom! With the blessing of true power, Chen Chu held the knife in both hands and slashed out with all his strength. In an instant, the air in front of the blade was so fast that it glowed red due to friction and heat. Bang! The moment the sword and shield met, there was a dull roar and explosion. Xia Yui only felt an overwhelming force coming, and his body involuntarily took several steps back. The ground vibrates slightly with each step. This is because the movement of the technique releases most of the power to the ground. Boom! Without giving Xia Yui a reaction, Chen Chu stepped forward and rushed forward. The ground shook, and with the roar of the strong wind, he slashed his sword in the middle of the shield again. The domineering power once again cut Xia Yui back several steps. Boom boom boom. Chen Chu stabbed Sha Yui with one step and another with violent and unparalleled power. He kept retreating, and the weak earth-colored light on his body continued to vibrate and became darker and darker. Sha Yui's arms were numb after being knocked back by the terrifying force continuously, and he looked like he had seen a ghost. At this moment, Chen Chu's momentum was extremely violent. He slashed Sha Yui 30 meters back from beginning to end with 17 consecutive blows. He did not stop until he was close to the wall. Looking at the handsome young man standing with a knife in the field, his black hair dancing wildly, Luo Fei's eyes from a distance were filled with excitement. Li Wenwen, on the other hand, opened her mouth wide in disbelief. Didn't it mean that when everyone breaks through the second heaven, Chen Chu's strength who practices low-level skills will appear mediocre? Is this mediocrity? Even Sha Yui, who had absorbed the essence and blood of the giant beast and was stronger than ordinary geniuses in all aspects, was beaten to the point where he was unable to fight back. Lao Sha, do you want to continue? No, I won't fight. Sha Yui put down his shield tremblingly. As the real power in his body dissipated, he only felt a little soreness all over his body. Call. So cool. Chen Chu let out a long breath, feeling relaxed all over his body at this moment. This was the first time he had such an unbridled burst of power after breaking through to the second level. Among the classmates, only Sha Yui, the Xuanwu, could take such a domineering attack from him. Under normal circumstances, with the sharpness of the alloy straight knife and Chen Chu's speed and strength, even a small car can be cut in half in front of him. As for why he didn't continue to chop a few more times, of course his real power was exhausted. This is the disadvantage of low-level skills. The real power of practice is not enough. From the 10 moves that I just broke through to now after half a month of practice, I can only explode 17 times with full strength. But looking at Sha Yui's appearance, it seemed that he still had enough strength to resist him for so long, but he was frightened by Chen Chu's violent momentum. Of course, this does not mean that Sha Yui is better than him, but that the advanced skills do have great advantages in all aspects, including increase in power and endurance. If it were a life-and-death battle, Chen Chu would be sure to kill him within 5 swords. After all, when both speed and strength dominated him, there was no need for him to challenge him head-on. It would be easier to attack Sha Yui from behind while he was being knocked back continuously. Sha Yui rubbed his shoulders and said speechlessly, "Achu, why is your power so great? Didn't it only take 2 days to break through? It should be because of the dragon elephant technique. After practicing this technique, my strength became stronger and stronger, and I became violent and domineering. Therefore, my strength also became stronger after I broke through." Chen Chu made an excuse casually. Sha Yui didn't believe it. "Young master, my black tortoise thick earth technique is mainly for defense and strength, and it also absorbs the essence and blood of giant beasts. It's not as exaggerated as you are." Chen Chu shook his head. "That should be the reason for the compatibility between me and the dragon elephant skill. I actually don't know very well." Sha Yui had nothing to say for this reason. "Because the Zenwu deed is a very good excuse, I didn't notice that there was a girl with average talent next to me. I just flipped through the book and my cultivation speed was almost catching up with his genius. And there is another pervert among the freshmen, the second-place Li Hao. He was in perfect harmony with the advanced techniques he practiced, and his strength was exaggeratedly powerful. He used iron pillars weighing hundreds of kilograms as weapons before he could break through to the second level of heaven." Thinking of this, Sha Yui regretted and said, "If I had known that your power was so abnormal, I would not have competed with you. Repairing the weapon this time will cost at least several thousand yuan." The weapons of both of them were made of F-grade alloy. Under Chen Chu's 17 blows with all his strength, his shield had already been cut with many deep marks. Even some of the spikes were cut off. Similarly, under the two-way action, the blade of the straight knife in Chen Chu's hand also rolled inward due to repeated battles, and many gaps appeared on it. This situation can only be alleviated later when the real power can cover the weapon. Chen Chu's eyes lit up. "Lao Sha, are you going to repair your weapons? It's just right. You can also repair my sword, by the way." "Fine." Sha Yui, who knew that Chen Chu was financially weak, readily agreed, although he seemed to have been suppressed a bit miserably just now.